Good. All right. Go ahead and call the meeting to order. We will start here with a roll call. McKee here. Lanterman. Here. Friedrich.
Here.
Bernkamp.
Here, but I think is the audio working out there?
It is.
All right. Go ahead. Keep going.
Nichols.
Also here.
Perfect. Would like to stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If I may?
Sure.
Just real quick, I want to thank everybody for coming. The folks out in the foyer and stuff, sorry we don't have more room, but I do ask, and I really would expect the respect that each and every one of you listen to anybody that's at the podium and listen to us and keep the side conversations someplace else, please. We are cramped, we are whatever. We are sharing really good information. We've got a number of citizens in our public that are expressing their opinion and stuff. I want and expect everybody to be respectful here tonight. Please. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, if I could add one note.
Sure.
So also anybody who's in the alcove or the atrium or whatever we want to call it, it's set up for elections that start at 7:30 tomorrow. Please do not dismantle or rearrange it. We do not have time to reset it up. It was election start at 7:30 tomorrow morning. So please don't take that apart. Thank you.
Can you hear in the back? They're motioning they can't hear. I don't know if we can turn it up.
So Aaron has cranked the sound up there to the best that we can. I think this is a case study on limited space and a need for a new space, which is one of the things that we're talking about tonight. If anybody's confused about that, I think this drives that home.
We have spent significantly amount of money to fix our audio, visual, and everything to the point. Do we keep spending more money? That's a whole nother conversation we'll get to. So.
Okay. On to agenda approval. Does anyone want to add, first of all, anything from council, any changes?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So we updated the presentation that will come from BKV on the schematic design. We received updated slides right before this. It is online right now if anybody needs it, and you all have hard copies at the dais. We updated the city council schedule to reflect some upcoming important dates that are happening. And then we also were able to add the video, number 3, that council asked us to do. And then finally, 6H was added right before approval of a temporary liquor license for Corcoran Country Days.
Okay, anything from council?
No.
I'd like to pull item 6D.
We're not there yet.
Oh, okay,
But
sorry.
I will make a note for
Okay.
when we do get there. So nothing from council. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. On to presentations, which is Civic Campus video number 3. We'll see if the speaker plays.
We all want the same services that all the big suburbs have too. We want that safety. We want that fire. We want that sewer. We want all the things that they have, but we want to preserve what we have. That's what Corcoran provides.
Obviously, the police department is a huge part of this community and a huge part of this business that I run. They help me keep everyone safe. I couldn't run this far without them.
I want to be safe. I want my neighbors to be safe. And so you have to be able to keep up with what's going on.
So we have more complicated cases, more complex cases today. We tripled our calls for service. We have run out of space. Everything has just gotten more and more full. When I started, we had 2 police cars. Today we have 10. So we don't have a lot of space for equipment storage. When I started, we were about 5,500 people in the city of Corcoran. And currently today, we're just under 10,000. So that's put an increase on the city, whether it's engineering or the police department. More population is more city services.
The officers are on top of each other. In order to do training, right now they'll move a police car out of the garage put down mats and do the training.
It needs to be done because the community's growing faster than maybe the services can keep up at this point. You don't want that to be to a point where you're playing catch up all the time. I would rather the services be ahead.
Everyone knows that Corcoran is expanding drastically, but what a lot of people don't know is how fast it has expanded. The first house got hooked up to sewer and water in 2014, and this year we just crossed over 2,100 connections to water and sewer. We've been an average of 27 homes per month being hooked up to sewer and water. The treatment plant was never designed to house the staff that we have in there now. We just do not have the space to expand.
So my name is Brian Lothar. I'm the point person for the whole community development. We acquired this property that we're on 25 years ago, and we've been working with the city really since that time. They've been very, very helpful in guiding us through a lot of the different processes there. The city has gone from just a very, very small, open country community to probably one of the most active development third-ring suburbs in the Twin Cities. We need facilities that will maintain that standard and growth.
City Hall provides services like engineering, building permits, inspections, supporting public work, parks and recreation, records management, notary services. Anything that the city really touches has a big place in City Hall. About a third of the city actually comes here to vote if we are more than out of space in our current facility. We are at the point where we pretty much can't hire additional people that are going to be in City Hall because there's nowhere to put them. Obviously, the population is growing drastically, has for the last 5 years. We know we're going to be growing as a city, and the demand's going to be growing. To keep even the same levels of service that we have now is going to require more space and more people, which we can't do in the current facility.
So that's video number 3. Any comments from council?
That goes out when?
Tomorrow morning.
On all
Social media,
whatever.
YouTube.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
if I may, thank you, thank Randy Shaver, thank Chrissy from the stanchion, thank Brian Lothar for what they did.
All right. Good job. On to open forum. Is there any other cards? I had 3.
I have just the 3 that you have.
Then we'll start with Kevin.
Please state your name and address for the record, and
Give me 1 second
3 to
to get
5
the
minutes
timer going here.
for remarks.
Howdy, my name is Kevin Pomerlow. I live at 10,009 Jack Pine Lane. Mr. Mayor, council members, staff, and the community. First, I want to thank you for taking time to listen to us this evening. The residents of Bellwether appreciate the moment to have with you folks and share our concerns and thoughts. While we have several focus points to discuss related to Bellwether's southern border, I'd like to focus on traffic concerns. We've talked about this before, but I want to expand on it a little bit. Something that impacts everyone along County Road 30 between and around County Road 116 and County Road 101. But before we explore that more deeply, I'd like to recap the zoning and intended land use for the corridor. To points previously made by council, Bellwether and parcels on our southern border were all zoned agricultural preserve at one point. Then Bellwether Development was the first to result in rezoning to RSF-PUD, residential single-family planned urban development. The roadways were laid out in a manner reflecting a 55-plus community. Pulte per city requirements stubbed out various road endpoints. However, there were no known connecting entities at that time. Various rezoning activities happened after that, moving from AG to multi-use to industrial to business park, depending on the parcel in question around our borders. At the end of the day, present state, nothing on Bellwether's southern quarter was rezoned to a similar zoning as Bellwether's RSF PUD. The result is somewhat of an impedance mismatch in land use between Bellwether and its future neighbors in southern border. This brings us to the present day and the planned proposed developments that will each reach fruition in the next 3 to 4 years. There are a few data points we'd like to highlight. First, the data from the Stantec traffic assessments for the spring at Corcoran and the Hope Meadows projected a very conservative 2% growth rate. We are concerned that this may be out of date and may need to be updated. Highlighting that. Little information. As we've talked before, Corcoran is on the edge of the MUSA, and as such, we're transitioning from a rural to an urbanized model, at least on the most eastern edge. If you go west, it's still very rural, obviously. These periods of growth typically see a minimum of 3 to 4% traffic, annualized growth, and can be up to 7 to 8% as the communities around us grow and spur additional growth within Corcoran. Current traffic levels across the 3 county roads, 30, 101, and 116, based on the MnDOT data from 2025, collectively are at an ADT, average daily traffic, of 27,100 cars. That's over a 20% increase from the ADT of 22,400 cars in 2021. An annualized compound growth rate of 5%, somewhat more than the 2%. By 2030, organic growth alone puts the collective ADT across all 3 county roads at over 35,000 vehicles. And I want to stress that's not just cars. That's cars plus trucks plus semis, depending upon what happens on the southern border with regard to the development things.
Mr. Mayor, may I, real quick? Your traffic studies, I don't believe a single one of them. I think they're way higher than what you're coming up with and what the state in the county does and stuff. So if you've got more to talk about, I'd rather you jump over the traffic side.
Actually,
it is awful before any development even comes in. That's what I feel, and I see it every day as I drive that every day when I go to work. So I'd rather you spend a little bit more time on other things than traffic. We see all of these numbers. We sit up here. We are residents just like you are in our city. I don't believe a single one of them, and I'm one of the rural guys. I live way out there, and it's going to be a long time before anything gets to me. But in the respect of your time, I'd rather hear something else than traffic. It's all stuff. We've spent 45 minutes with Kevin Anderson last time. I spend at least an hour a day sending emails to Kevin and our other county commissioners and stuff related to traffic out here, doing all of these things. Our staff is on it. Our police are on it. All of us up here say a lot of the same things. I'd rather hear something else other than the traffic. So that's just me, but you can keep going. I'm sorry I took up some of your time, but just keep going.
I paused your time.
Thank you.
That's fine, thank you. I appreciate your feedback, Councilman Dean.
Michelle has, I guess, something quick.
Oh, yes.
I guess I understand Councilmember Barenkamp's perspective. For me personally, I do appreciate hearing different perspectives on what traffic is seeing. So I would appreciate it if you could continue with your presentation, because it does help me make a better decision, hearing all aspects of what I'm hearing from both sides.
Thank you.
So thank you.
So I appreciate both perspectives. From the folks living in the crosshairs of this, it's part and parcel to a position we want to put forth to the council going forward. So I will get to traffic coming forward. This is a primer to another conversation. So this is background that we need to have to create a state.
Are the batteries okay? Okay.
All righty. So, like I was saying, we've had a 5% growth, annualized growth year over year for 20%. The organic growth by 2030 will be 35,000 cars on the 3 roads. Now you take a macro view of our immediate County Road 30 corridor. You take into consideration the combined traffic from Hope Meadows, Oswald Business Park, Springs at Corcoran, business and retail daycare to its east. The projected total using ITE, the Institute of Transportation Engineers standard metrics, puts the additional ADT at 18,000 cars. That's additional to the 35,000 that organic growth brings. Combining those two together, by 2030, you have 50,000 vehicles in average daily traffic on those 3 roads. Bellwether sits in the crosshairs of this immense traffic pressure. Using the very conservative data from the Santec traffic assessments, done for the springs at Corcoran and extrapolating for the impacted business, Oswald Business Park, or what are manifest in those zones. Regarding the project pass-through traffic for Bellwether, the following traffic growth will impact Bellwether 55-plus roads. And I want to point out that on the plat maps, there's a proposed road that goes from the eastern side of 116 all the way over to the western side of 101. Functions like a frontage road. And there'll be multiple access points from those properties.
Can I
Yes,
get
sir.
a motion to extend?
I'll motion.
Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Go ahead. We just needed to extend your time.
Oh, thank you. I will move along. The one thing I wanted, so moving along then, the organic growth of Bellwether, not the growth, the organic state of Bellwether's traffic is about 1,500 cars daily, with a safe load of about 2,000 cars. This is where I'm going with the impact of the traffic. Traffic through Bellwether, if the recommended Stantec County road improvements are made, i.e. roundabout, lighted traffic, whatever, will increase to over 3,500 cars by 2030 conservatively, based on the data from Stantec. Given that they're an engineering firm that does this for a living, and all I have to do is look at the aerial photos we have of the current roads, it seems reasonable to presume they're not completely inaccurate. If the recommended road improvements are not implemented, the situation is even more dire, with traffic exceeding 4,500 ADT by 2030, conservatively. I dialed it back from what they were really there. In both scenarios, the safe ADT load is exceeded and the transit becomes hazardous throughout Bellwether. Remember, the safe load is about 2,000 ADT, and if we have additional roads opened up, we will exceed that by 1,500 to 2,500 cars. Obviously, it's a grave concern to our community. Given this data, our community is extremely concerned about security and safety, as it has put us at significantly greater risk. Traffic, as we've all learned, is like water. Bellwether, our traffic calming, winding roads geared toward a 55-plus lifestyle, will become the relief valve and major thoroughfare for extreme traffic congestion and gridlock on the county roads on our southern borders. As we've stated on multiple occasions, our intent is not to impede growth of our city, Corcoran, but rather hope that we can collaborate to work together to mitigate the impact as we grow. We have engaged in discussions with the developers of the project at the southern border. Neither they nor Bellwether see the need nor want the proposed through streets. The EVA requirements for Hennepin County are met with Bellwether's existing egress and ingress points. And when Hunter's Ridge is completed by the end of 26, the traffic loads within Bellwether will become more distributed, making that more reliable and more safe. Considering the emerging land use and the developments moving forward to fruition, and acknowledging the excessive pass-through traffic that result in the proposed stubs that were connected to developments along our southern border, it is clear this will result in grave safety and security consequences for Bellwether community. Based on the facts we have presented tonight, these are not our data, this is the data we've collected from the city, from MnDOT, et cetera. We respectfully ask this council to consider a motion directing that the planned roadway connections between Bellwether and the developments along our southern border not be constructed, and that those planned connections instead remain in their stub configuration or be completed as permanent cul-de-sacs. The Bellwether Border Committee has much more comprehensive overview, macro view of how the impact might be talked about and mitigated and worked together. My time is already short and I've burned through some of it. To that end, we'd like to request that a motion be made to allow the BBC to present a comprehensive macro plan to the council on August 13th. Again, we very much appreciate your opportunity to bring our concerns to council and more importantly, work with you collaboratively to find solutions from the parties involved. Thank you for the extension of time. I appreciate that. Our thanks in the committee and our community thanks you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Kim. Is it different? I mean, they might, is it different than what you gave me?
It's got some charts.
Sure.
May I give them some information for?
Different than that?
this? No, different, for what
Sure.
I'm saying, for what I'm saying.
Thank you. Yes, please. Thank
that's for the mayor.
Thank you.
My name's Kim Svoboda. I live at 19570 102nd Place in Bellwether. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Tonight I'd like to talk to you regarding the trail alignment and tree preservation along our southern border. I would like to discuss the property that borders Bellwether and 30 located between 101 and 116, specifically the area between the proposed Springs and Oswalt Business Park. This is approximately 26 acres. What we are proposing would be for the half of the property north of the east-west road that's proposed. We are hoping to improve the foot traffic along with preserving the Bellwether 55+ environment with responsible trail development that protects Bellwether properties while allowing community trail growth. First, a little history, Diamond Lake Regional Trail. It was originally proposed to be west of 116. Then, on page 2, you'll notice that when it was moved into Bellwether, when Bellwether was in the very early stages and also going along Hunter's Ridge to exit. It was then moved away from Hunter's Ridge and now all the way through Bellwether and then our southern border. If you look at page 3, in February, myself and a neighbor, Linda Herman, met with Three Rivers and a city employee, and it was agreed that when the trail was expanded, the current trail would be moved as much as possible when it crosses 102nd, so that it would curve away from the property at 19568 102nd and angle more towards the retention pond. This also would provide and they would also provide additional landscaping for her for screening. This property has Diamond Lake along her front porch, her entire side of her house, and then now it's being proposed to have her entire backyard spanned with the off-road trail. 3 sides of her home. At this time, we asked also for the confirmation that the Diamond Lake Trail would not turn to the east and it would only go to the west, that it would not run through our backyards, and we were told it would not run through our backyard, which it is. Off-road trail, history, page 4. Originally, this one was east and north of the current proposal location. If you'll notice, it was also exiting down Hunter's Ridge. Understand it was a fat line, and I have discussed this with 4 different city employees in person and in emails with no alternatives allowed. If you move to page 5, you'll see that I went to the Trails and Parks meeting on May 25th, and I talked to the commissioners, and they agreed that the trail should be moved south and west to avoid impact to neighboring properties. We discussed possibly it along the east-west road if at all possible. They did have a caveat, though, that Continental would still have to build the trail along buildings 13 and 14 and then tear it out if the trail can be moved. Can we agree to realign the trail and use the money for the final trail placement? Foot traffic. Bellwether foot traffic is much different than 500 apartment residents and 500 employees of Oswalt Business Park. According to the Rails of Trails Conservation, National Institute of Health, and Active Living Research, the Springs will add up to 125 daily users right behind the homes on 3 homes on 102nd and 7 homes on 99th Place within Bellwether. This number would be 250 1 to 4 times a week users and 250 consistent active users. The Oswalt Business Park would have 75 daily users with up to 374 if an active incentive is given by their employers. Just as a side note, a normal employee number for a business park of that size footprint is more between 2,400 and 6,000, not 500. These numbers could be lower because of more warehousing space, I grant that, but if these numbers are not correct and they are higher, the traffic could be as much as 425 people along behind our homes and jumping to 4,600 if an incentive is allowed. I'm curious if there'll be a city employee assigned to monitor the actual employee level at the business park, since parking, traffic, both cars and foot, are all being based on 500 employees. Would a mitigation plan be required when the employee level reaches a specific number? I understand maybe because of warehousing, but it does not even, and these numbers don't even take Bellwether and any regional users into consideration. These are all just the other. Okay, tree preservation. I'm talking about the northern part of the beyond the east-west road, as I said, and it's a densely populated tree grove right now. It's approximately 13 acres. How would we get that land? Good question. Some thoughts I had were, could we have the park dedication from the Springs Commercial and Oswalt Business Park be park dedication instead of them just paying, or use the 1.2 million that Continental's paying the city, plus whatever Ebert and Hempel is, to give Oswald some money. Possibly a partnership with Three Rivers. Oswald's. So Hempel has advised one of our committee members that it would be very expensive, like $3 to $4 million, to clear that property and get it ready to be built on. It's going to be hard to sell.
Please, yes. Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's going to be a hard property to sell, probably. It would make the southern part of that property on the south side of the east-west road more appealing if the harder to develop part is sold separately. It allows for the east-west road to remain approximately 600 feet from the Bellwether border to reduce noise, smell, and safety in traffic. This would also allow for this road and the trail to be done while these developments happen instead of waiting for the property to sell. Could get a connection now. Trees are good, let's save them. Trails, I've given you two proposals. They both optimize trail layout. They're set back from the road, they cross few or no roads, avoid parking drives, provide a better, more pleasant experience with curves and everything, possibly reduce foot traffic into Bellwether, connects the Springs, the commercial, and the Oswald Business Park to the off-road trail and the Diamond Lake Trail. Minimizes impact to 10 Bellwether residents, connects the Diamond Lake Trail in the woods along the retention pond, not by the residents' home. It would address a lot of the foot traffic, the safety, the noise, same concerns as a lot of our established neighbors to our west had when, and their concerns were all addressed in the Oswald Business Park proposal, but Bellwether's was not. We ask for the same consideration as given to other established neighborhoods affected that have approximately 200 feet from their home to their property line, then mature trees, then a proposed retention pond, all between them and the trail. Bellwether properties, some of them are as close as 40 feet to the property line. Then they want to put the trail. The proposals do not have the trail along buildings 13 and 14 towards the north or the off-road trail connecting as proposed by the Springs in the city. It would run along, it wouldn't, or it won't, and it also will not run along the 10 Bellwether properties. So page 6 is the proposal A, which is what our preferred one is, and that is as soon as we can get the tree preservation. If we can get that, then it's a nice loop through there. It will give a much better attraction for all the parties involved. Page 7 is a proposed trail B, which is no tree preservation, but it still is, if one or two buildings are to go on that land, the trail could go around the buildings to avoid any driveways. It could then, it would take some creative routing, but I do feel it would be possible. So the preferred option, as I said, is A, as it allows for utilization of the Oswald land to allow developers, Continental and Hempel, it would also allow them to install the berms along the northern Bellwether border to effectively mitigate adjacently negative impacted residents. Potentially mitigate some safety, privacy, noise, lights, property devaluation, etc. We have been working with Continental and they've been cooperative on the land that touches the Springs. Continental has acknowledged that other properties are negatively impacted and have been working on a solution, but nothing has come to fruition. Berms for these properties would be on currently owned Oswald land, which makes it a little tricky. City-owned or dedicated land would allow Continental and Hempel to do the berm for the northern border now, or with their development. With tree preservation and trail alignment, it would allow the berms also on 102nd to possibly curve south along the western side of the Continental property to mitigate the 18 feet high lights on buildings and parking lot lights and noise. This would help to mitigate some of the safety and property devaluation. In closing, we're not opposed to growth. We request the trails be realigned to consider Bellwether residents. We are not limiting any residents or employees from using any city-owned trails. We have taken safety and any crossings into great consideration. Hopefully we can work together to come up with a way that preserves the woods and maintains a high level of codes, buffers, and et cetera for the Bellwether borders. I'd like to request a motion to move the trail away from the Bellwether residents and work to realign it with the same consideration as our more established neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then third and finally, we have Brian Jones.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, members of the council, fellow citizens, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brian Jones. I live at 10063 Mulberry Lane, Bellwether. I'm here to talk to you tonight about Hunter's Ridge. I believe that this would be an easy one for you to accomplish for us. Right now, in resolving this infrastructure gap, as soon as that we can get this, excuse me. Currently, our community is separated from Hunter's Ridge access by just a 50-foot patch of unpaved road. Paving this tiny stretch is all it would take to connect our neighborhood to the main thoroughfare, more evenly distributing the traffic from our front two access points at Bellwether, giving us a third to the rear of the development, which give us equal distance for EVA, emergency vehicle activity. According to our community agreements, Hunter's Ridge is slated to officially open as soon as phases 8 and 10 reach their number, which right now we are currently at 82% sold. And we are on track to meet our requirements for that road to be completed by September. Since September is only 2 months away, we ask that the city planning, engineering, permitting process start so that we can get that 50-foot section completed. Proactive planning on this makes sense for 2 reasons. First, safety for our community, having optimal access on both ends of Bellwether. Second, efficiency. This is a very straightforward 50-foot patch of asphalt connecting to Hunter's Ridge, bringing us out to 116. We feel that that's going to be a lot of just car traffic, light traffic, but just makes sense to mediate the community. This is a small project, and all of you make decisions on things like this all the time. Would you be kind enough, please, to let us get this one done? Because the timeline is moving fast, we feel we can't afford to wait for planning cycles and future meetings, so we ask for 2 things. You direct the city manager, Public Works, to coordinate the development of Hunter's Ridge with that 50-foot section, or please put into place a motion to approve and coordinate the paving of Hunter's Ridge. And if you are unable to complete this today, or may have that happen, then please get it on the agenda for the next city council meeting so that we can get this done before the snow flies. So that's what we're asking for in Hunter's Ridge. We've all been expecting this for quite some time, and it doesn't seem like, or it does seem like we're going to meet the obligations to have that done. That's all I have to say on that subject. I do have one special request, if I may. I've attempted to get information regarding what the processes are for submitting proper paperwork and procedures to the city for the proper, what do you need from us in order to get things done? Many of us have had difficulty getting information or finding out proper forms to fill out or what process to follow so that we can give you what you require to help us get what we would like. So if we could have some assistance in that in the future, that would be greatly appreciated. Once again, thank you for all that you do, and we're very grateful to have an opportunity to speak.
There are no other comment cards, Mr. Mayor.
And just to clarify, with open forum, we don't take action or engage on, we're hearing you, we're listening, I think we've all been taking notes, that's been taking notes. We don't take action on items from open forum on that, so just to let you know.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So, one of the speakers asked for a motion for the Bellwether Committee to present to council. Would we need to do that tonight, or would that be a later council report? Item?
That would be a conversation when we get to the council reports.
Okay.
We could provide direction if that were a desire.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
I'm just checking. Any of our residents from Hunter's Ridge here? Yeah. Just checking. It's a big ask, folks. There was an agreement. The city will live up to their agreement as far as Hunter's Ridge, but we've got 7 residents along Hunter's Ridge that have been there 40-plus years, and they oppose Hunter's Ridge as much as you want it to happen. And not to start a conversation or anything, but if you live there, would you want that to go through prior to the agreed time? That's, I'm asking that, folks.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, staff is looking at this and working on it, so we can make a plan for an upcoming council meeting to make sure that we give you an update on the process and where we're at progress.
Thank you.
Mayor, we're not asking for it open to early. We want it open when we are at the agreed 80%.
Yep.
We're not asking for early.
And we're on it. Staff is on it, folks.
Sounds good. Okay. Anyone else for open forum? If not, we will move on to consent agenda, which consists of items 6A through 6H. Does anyone want to pull anything? Michelle, I think you said D earlier?
Yes, please.
Which one?
6D.
D, thanks.
Did you want to pull that one?
No, you've got your name all over that one.
All right.
And anyone else? Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items 6A through C and E through H.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Then, aye, unanimous.
I too, sorry.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Gotta speak up, guys.
Michelle, 6D.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I have a quick question, and I don't know if this can be answered at this point. And I know this is just acceptance of public improvements, but since it's on the agenda, I want to take advantage of that and just have a brief discussion about it. Could you maybe shed some light on when it's a CUP for that parcel or that property, I think? And I'm just wondering if there's anything in there. I remember talking about this at a prior council meeting as a staff person, listening to it, and I thought that there were a specific number of new trucks that were supposed to be allowed in the parking lot. And then I also thought that the light that they had was supposed to be a certain luminescence, not too bright because there's a RV park across the street. And I thought that they were supposed to be turning that light off at a certain time each night and then turning it on in the morning.
I'm sorry, Michelle, I was not with the city when this was approved, so I would have to look at the approvals. I can follow up on it, but I'm not able to.
Yeah, nope, I totally understand. Okay, nope, thank you.
I think you're right, though. I wasn't on council at the time, but I was paying attention. And I think it was their sign.
Okay.
The big Nelson sign was supposed to be dimmed.
Nelson sign dimmed.
Yes.
Or turned off.
And the lights
Yes.
dimmed also.
Yeah, and I think it was like at midnight or 10 p.m.,
Yeah,
something
or
like
11
that.
or something. And then there was only supposed to be so many new trucks in the parking lot.
It's a busy place.
And they had to
right
close
now.
the service bays at night so that the noise from the inside.
9 o'clock was that time, huh?
I also apologize, Councilor Friedrich, I just realized my goof there, I apologize.
So it seems like it would be good to confirm that those things are in place before we complete this.
That's what I was thinking. So I don't, unless it doesn't impact those things. That was my question too. Thank you, Councilor Nichols.
What they're actually checking for the CUB, and this is just part of the contract, so I think there should be separate.
Yeah, I agree, it's two separate things, but we can certainly follow up on those items and.
Okay.
So the infrastructure isn't gonna impact their CUP, but it does impact our operations?
Yeah. Okay.
So the things bring up.
So we can bring back an update
Okay.
with information.
Okay, I'll make a motion then to approve item 6D.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Consent agenda. On to 7, planning. 8A, Lost Loon site plan, interim use permit, and variance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So our planning item tonight, as you said, is Lost Loon. The applicant is Dan Schoblam, and he made the application on behalf of Lost Loon LLC. The site is located at 20120 Auger Avenue. It is in the middle of our existing industrial area off of 10, where it kind of breaks into 50, as well as to the west of County Road 116. The site plan approval is for a state licensed indoor cannabis cultivation business. There is an interim use permit to reduce the parking requirements based on their business model to 19 stalls. And there is a variance request to allow for up to 30% impervious surface within the shoreline overlay district. Currently, the site is vacant, and it has been since 1995. So the site was platted in 1995 and has remained vacant for the last 31 years. I called that out because I accidentally set up the planning commission 1970s. I think I was looking at a plat to the east, so I just wanted to clarify that on the record. It was 1995. It is a 2.12 acre site, and it is zoned light industrial. It is an indoor cannabis cultivation is a permitted use in this district. There's a tributary stream along the west side of the property. It's actually just off the property, but the shoreline overlay does extend to most of the site. The proposal includes a 16,000 square foot building. No retail sales are proposed, and approximately 10 to 15 staff members are expected. The site itself complies with all I-1 district standards. The shoreline overlay district has a 25% impervious surface limit. The current site plan as proposed, staff estimated that they are at 27.8% impervious surface limit. You will recall when we reviewed the site plan, they were sitting more at 36%. So they did do a lot of reconfigurations of the parking lot to try to get that lower, but they are still over the 25% limit, and so that's why the variance is requested. Other than that, they are meeting all district requirements. The proposed building design will be a precast concrete structure, and the applicant is proudly working towards LEED certification. The Planning Commission really likes that fact, so that's why I'm highlighting that. The equipment, rooftop equipment over 3 feet will have to comply with screening requirements, and that's one thing that we couldn't quite 100% guarantee with their current proposal. That's fairly normal at this stage. It will be something that we continue to review as any building permits were to come in, but it is a condition of approval that I have specifically highlighted in the resolution. In the parking lot, they are proposing 19 parking stalls. 40 parking stalls would otherwise be required under our code, and that is why the interim use permit, IUP, is being requested. The parking lot does need to slide a little further north in order to meet the 50-foot setback from their property line on Auger Avenue. While they were trying to minimize the impervious surface, the parking lot has shifted a little too close to that property line, so they're going to have to move that a little bit north. Additionally, the turnaround that's shown in the northeast side of the parking lot will need to be expanded to meet city engineering standards for emergency vehicles. If the building is not sprinkled, a drive aisle around the building may be required by public safety, which would again increase impervious surface. Hopefully, the applicant takes that hint and moves to have the building sprinkled. That would be the easiest option.
Irrigation doesn't count?
No, irrigation does not count. For the landscaping plan, they have 24 overstory trees shown, or equivalent, but 25 is required, so they're going to just have to revise that to include one more tree. Same with the shrubs. They have 53 shrubs proposed. We need one more at 54. They'll also need to look at their required species, the species spread. No more than 1/3 of the required trees can be of the same species, and there was one, I think the balsam fir was just above that 33% limit, so we'll have to reevaluate that. They are proposing extensive native grasses on the site. That is fully permitted, and they are doing this as a strategy that we'll discuss a little bit further with the variant. But some adjustments that staff has proposed as conditions of approval is we only want, this is actually backwards, we do not want native grasses in the public right-of-way. We want it just to be sod within the public right-of-way. We're asking for them to include educational signage, identifying that the lane of landscaping is intentional because it will be taller than normal. And we're kind of thinking about the calls that we might receive from a code enforcement perspective, and so we're hoping some educational signs saying that it is normal for it to be this tall. This is why we decided to include it on the site, and what it's doing for the site will help minimize some of those code enforcement calls we might get. We're also asking for a long-term maintenance plan for the native planting areas. We typically do require this with other applications as well, particularly our open space and preservation plats. So, go ahead.
Just quick clarification. I think I heard you say we want sod in the right of way, but the slide says no sod.
I know, as I tried to call that out, I just realized that I put that in the slide backwards.
We don't want the
We
native.
want sod in the public right of way. We want no native plantings in the right of way. Again, it's just because they're getting to be tall, we want to keep the
We
right
want
of way.
the safety from the
Right of
road
way. Yep.
visible and those kind of things.
Correct.
Good job.
They are, in their plans, they do include a rooftop solar energy system. This will account for about 10% of the energy they will be using. That was something that they had provided at the Planning Commission meeting. That does require a certificate of compliance as well as a separate building permit. So that's called out as a condition of approval in the resolution as well. The business is expected to comply with security, odor control, and cannabis waste disposal requirements, which are called out in section 1060.120 of the zoning ordinance. Everything they've submitted so far does, and it goes into a bit more detail in the packet, as well as the specific plans provided by the applicant as to how they will meet these standards. Everything looks like that would be a great starting point. If anything were to arise to suggest they aren't meeting those performance standards, it would be handled as a code enforcement issue at that time, and they will have to make adjustments if that were to arise. One thing I did call out as a condition of approval was just to confirm security cameras will cover all areas of the building, interior and exterior. That was one piece of information that we were missing. The proposed business location does exceed 1,000 feet from schools and 500 feet from daycare, residential treatment facility, or a public park attraction regularly used by minors. Specifically, there are no known schools within 1,000 feet. There are no known daycares or residential treatment facilities within 500 feet. The nearest public park attraction regularly used by minors is an athletic field at Heritage Park, which is 610 feet from the northern property line of the site. The building itself will be about 700 feet from that field. If we were to go property line to property line, which arguably is not how the state ordinance reads, it would be about 584 feet. So either way, we're meeting that 500 feet buffer that we have called out. For the interim use permit, parking space reductions can be approved as an IUP when it can be demonstrated there is a demand which is less than the required parking formula as called out by the city. The applicant did submit their documented business model and staffing plan and requesting to reduce this requirement down to 19 stalls. Their shifts will have approximately 5 to 8 employees with 10 to 15 employees total. So 19 stalls would exceed their staffing requirements even if all staff is on site at once. And it will also allow for occasional visitors to the site, such as van deliveries, inspections, etc. There's no customer traffic on site, and reducing the parking lot requirement aids in their ability to reduce their overall impervious surface limit on the site. For some conditions of approval that were reviewed by Planning Commission and proposed by staff, no parking on adjacent public streets. All parking must be accommodated on site. If a documented parking demand for the cannabis business exceeds 19 parking spaces for regular operations, the applicant shall submit a site plan amendment and variance if applicable for the city approval at that time. And the city may inspect the property every 3 years or upon receipt of parking-related complaints to verify continued compliance with the conditions of this IUP. And then the interim use permit has that sunset clause where it technically expires, or they or whoever were to take control of the property would need to come back in for further review by the city. This would happen if the property is sold, transferred, or the cannabis cultivation business changes ownership or operational control. Documented parking demand exceeds the 19 parking spaces. The cannabis cultivation business ceases. The cannabis cultivation business expands. And the city determines the parking demand will increase. And then the cannabis business fails to meet city and state requirements, or the city council otherwise revokes the IUP pursuant to the applicable ordinance provisions. This is a bit of a catch-all. For the variance, so again, the shoreland overlay has a 25% maximum impervious surface limit. Their current proposal is about 27.8%. Staff recommendation is to allow for a variance of up to 30% to accommodate the potential, well, the known city required revisions at this point, including moving the parking lot a bit north and expanding the northeast turnaround.
Sorry, Natalie?
Yep.
Is that enough for them to have the drive aisle all the way around?
I don't think it would be. I think it does kind of, this limit would force them to likely sprinkle if they're not already planning on doing that. Or at that time, if they, once we have a final amount, they would have to come back in with a revised variance. But I wanted to really minimize the flexibility we were giving while trying to keep it practical.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Natalie, my question is around the sprinkling. Why no sprinkling?
I don't know that at this stage.
Okay.
That's not typically something that I necessarily have
It's
the
okay.
building plans for, but they might be able, the applicant team might be able to.
But in my mind, I thought at one point, previous council, the mayor said anything that was part of the city water and sewer system and stuff, those buildings had to be, it was part of the requirement.
So it's determined by fire and building code. So it's all to do with occupancy. When I reviewed it
With the number of people working and those kind of things.
Yeah, and the use
Okay.
and the size, there's a couple different factors that go into it. It's
Gotcha.
very likely that they may be required to. Again, I think that they might be able to speak to whether what their plan is a bit
I'll
more.
ask when they
and I
come-
think
they
this
come.
encourages them to if they aren't being
Yeah,
required. So.
It's a lot easier putting it in before than after.
Yep. Agreed. Okay, so the practical difficulty for the variance is created by balancing the shoreland requirements, parking requirements, and emergency access within a light industrial area for a typical industrial building. And I would even add that as far as the size of the building, while 16,000 may seem large, it's actually fairly, it's on the smaller end of what is a typical industrial building. Staff and Planning Commission found the variance represents a reasonable use of the property, will not alter the character of the area, and is generally consistent with the comprehensive plan. The recommended mitigation conditions of approval include minimizing the impervious surface to the maximum extent practicable. And again, that would kind of go towards if we can avoid adding that drive aisle, let's do that. Preserve and maintain native prairie vegetation shown on the approved landscape plan in perpetuity. The applicants can speak to this a bit more, but the reason why they have a lot of that native planting was an intentional way to encourage the site to really have a healthy ecosystem within that shoreland overlay, and it also has some benefits for stormwater and things like that. So that was very intentional as a way to kind of offset what the request was to have increased impervious surface. Additionally, maintaining a 15-foot impervious surface setback from any delineated wetlands on site. So in summary, for the site plan can comply with the zoning ordinance with the proposed conditions of approval, and assuming the IUP and variance are granted, remaining revisions would be addressed administratively. For the IUP, staff and planning commission believe 19 parking spaces adequately reflect the documented parking demand. For the council, are the proposed sunset events appropriate? Should additional sunset events be included? Are there additional operational conditions that we want to consider to ensure parking demand remains within the approved limit? Planning commission didn't have any further thoughts on this, but that would be a point of discretion for the council to consider. For the variance, staff and planning commission recommended approval of a variance allowing 30% impervious surface within the shoreline overlay to allow for site functionality while allowing room for city-approved modifications or city-required modifications. And then for the council, an area of discretion would be, do the recommended conditions adequately mitigate the impact of granting the variance? Is there anything we'd like to add to that? So for the recommendation, Staff and Planning Commission on a 4-1 vote recommend approval of Resolution 2026-54, which does approve the site plan, IUP, and variance as discussed.
All together in that resolution?
Yep, it's all in one resolution.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question? What was the concern from the Planning Commission with the nay vote?
So there was concern about electrical usage, but that is not something that we can regulate in zoning. But I do know the applicant team has since spoken with Wright Hennepin, and Wright Hennepin, I'll let them speak to it, but they can speak to that a bit. And then the other concern, I think she was concerned about the location, proximity to the park. But again, they need what we've called out in code, and actually exceed what we've called out in code as the buffer.
Even at the 5 whatever, 6 whatever, in any way you'd actually go from one to the other, you'd have to go.
You'd have to go around, or you're walking through a
There's no
number of
straight way
private
there.
properties.
I've been back there. There's no straight way to get to the park. It
Correct.
would be impossible.
Currently, the site is smack dab in the middle of either, and it's north, east, and south of all current industrial properties.
Yep.
And then the property to the west is currently zoned industrial as well. So it's right smack in the middle of a industrial park. Yep.
And we keep talking shoreline district, and I think you know my challenge on it. It's a ditch. It's a drainage ditch.
It is a drainage ditch.
And our friends in the nature world is wanting to make it a shoreline, so I'll give to it, but it's a ditch.
I don't disagree.
Is there any like post-organic debris that's created from that business? And like how is it destroyed if there is?
So I think the applicant will be able to speak to that, but that is part of their,
Do we have any other
their
questions?
waste disposal plan.
I don't have questions, but I have comments.
Go.
I can go last if.
Does anyone else have questions?
No?
On Michelle's point, again, the applicant's talking what they have to do. We do have the one that applicant that we've said yes to. It is a huge deal to get rid of anything. Nothing can end up in a way. So I'd love to rehear what it is again. So.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me be clear up front. My concern is not with the applicant's effort or with cannabis cultivation, which is a permitted use in our I-1 district. It's narrower. Most of the open items here can be handled through conditions, but one cannot. The variance from the shoreline overlay district's 25% impervious surface limit. That's the one decision tonight where the law puts the burden on the applicant and leaves this council real discretion. So that's where I want to focus. Here are the numbers. Our shoreline limit is 25% impervious surface. The applicant's own concept plan started at nearly 36. They redesigned it down to about 27.8. Good work, but still over our limit. And the resolution doesn't ask us to approve 27.8. It asks for authorization up to 30. That's 5 points above our own limit on a site they've already shown can be pushed lower. The law is clear on what a variance requires. Under Minnesota statutes 462.357 and our own ordinance, the applicant must prove, quote, practical difficulties, a 3-part test, and the burden is theirs, not ours. On this record, I don't think they've met it for 3 reasons. First, the difficulty is self-created. Cutting impervious surface from 36 to 27.8 just by redesigning proves this number is a design choice, not something the land forces. A smaller building could meet 25%, and a self-created hardship is not grounds for a variance. Second, they're asking for more than they need. The proposal is 27.8, the resolution grants 30, and staff themselves don't expect it to need the full 30. A variance should be the minimum necessary, not a cushion for changes that haven't happened. Third, and most important, we can't even verify the number. The ordinary high water level is not marked, the wetland boundaries are not shown, and the fire turnaround isn't designed, which staff says may add impervious surface. We'd be locking in a 30% cap without knowing the real figure. I can't make an honest finding of practical difficulties on numbers the city cannot confirm tonight. To be fair, the shoreline setting is a real constraint and the native plantings are a genuine benefit. But those soften the impact. They don't satisfy the legal test. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to deny, but let me say why first for the record. The burden is on the applicant to prove practical difficulties, and they have not. The difficulty is self-created by the scale of the building. The 30% request is more than they've shown they need, and the record can't even confirm the number because the high water line, the wetlands, and the fire turnaround aren't finalized. So for those reasons, I move to deny the variance requested in Resolution 2026-54, which would allow up to 30% impervious surface where the shoreline overlay permits 25 on the findings that the applicant has not met its burden under Minnesota statutes and our own ordinance. Specifically, that the difficulty is self-created, that the request exceeds the minimum necessary, and that the record does not establish the ordinary high water level, the wetland boundaries, or the final impervious calculation. I'd ask that these findings be entered into the record, and with that, I would ask my colleagues to vote to deny. Thank you.
Just to clarify, your motion is on the variance aspect.
No, it's on the whole thing, and my reason is because of the variance.
Okay. Gotcha. Do we have a second on that motion?
I have a question for staff before I decide if I'll second.
See if it's a second.
I may second depending on the answer.
I don't know how to handle that.
John is back here. Let's make him earn his money.
I'll second for the purpose of discussion.
Okay, discussion.
So we've had a few different shoreline overlay development proposals come in, and some of them have been PUD. I think some of them have had variances. Are there other cases where we have argued that the request for a variance is deniable because they could have fewer homes or a smaller building?
I don't recall that. It's been a few years. I have to look at the findings for those variances.
I'm thinking of like Fairway Shores, I think might have had one.
Say that again. What were you asking?
Yeah, Fairway Shores, I believe, had a variance for shoreland. Because like Highlands, but theirs was related to height. I think the same argument can be said there.
I think they were over the shoreland level too.
Yeah, you could have just designed a shorter building, but the reality is the use that's allowed in the district, and the district standards required as part of the reason why they had the building that they had designed while they're trying to have a marketable product. So it's kind of a give and take between the two, trying to balance that. I will say the applicant didn't request the 30%. That was me trying to minimize having them go through another approval process while knowing that there were a couple things. It is very typical at this stage for them to not make the revisions, knowing that there could still be revisions that come from council. I would also say there's an addition to, before we deny it, we could table it to bring back some of this information. If that is desired, we can have them work through some of those revisions and we could table it. I believe.
What is the timeline?
The timeline is technically August 8th, but I don't believe I've used I'm checking it right now. I don't believe we've used our 60-day extension. So if we're saying that that's truly what we need to make a decision, then we could theoretically I could send a letter tomorrow giving that 60-day extension. We could table it for another council meeting for those findings to be found. I believe the ordinary high water level isn't going to change from what is currently shown. The engineering was pretty confident that it is where it is. It was just a technicality on the plan. So that's why I was confident moving forward. That is, if it is an adjustment, it's a slight adjustment. The wetlands are, I think there's like basically there's a small wetland in the northeast, and I don't believe that it is actually anywhere near that, and they don't actually need to do buffers. As part of the variance, I was requiring a setback from the wetland edge as a way to mitigate that and a way to technically get a setback that we don't currently have. But neither wetland were very close to what a boundary were shown, were something that looked to be close to where the impervious surface is shown. I want it on one single plan. And to verify that 15-foot setback, that the 15-foot setback isn't something they're required to meet right now.
Could I ask a quick question?
Yep.
If our limit by code is 25%, why is the city recommending 36 to the applicant?
I did not recommend
Or 30, I misspoke.
Well, and that is very much a question for the council. So Planning Commission, that was one of the questions for them. Is 30% reasonable? Do we want to do 27.8?
But I guess my question is, if our code says 25, why is staff recommending 30?
So I recommended 30 because I believe that that is closer to what they're going to be at once the parking lot moves north and when the hammerhead is expanded to meet city standards.
I guess I'm just, and I get what you're saying. I guess I'm just concerned that if the limit is 25, I don't understand why the city is recommending a number that is in violation of our own code.
So as part of the variance, there was discussion with city council, and there did seem to be some desire or some of the openness to exploring flexibility, especially if they could find a way to mitigate them. At the time, they were talking about impervious pavers, which we would still technically consider impervious surface, but I don't believe the soils on the site actually work for that, which is a common issue that we run into on properties in Corcoran. There's a lot of desire for impervious surface, but our soils really do not allow for it. So that's where the native prairie grass has come in as another alternative to try to meet that spirit that was discussed at the concept plan. So hearing what I had heard from council, knowing that the site has been very challenging to develop because of the shoreline overlay for over 31 years, that is where I do think that they met the reasonable use. It is a reasonable use. It is permitted use. It is in character with the neighborhood. That's my opinion. You're free to disagree and provide findings, but that was through our discussions. That's where staff landed.
Thank you.
Another question. How much smaller would the building have to be to get to 25? If they didn't change the hammerhead, they didn't change the parking lot? Are we talking this is a third of the building going away?
My rough numbers are 520 square feet.
With the current site plan, so we'd have to adjust. But I mean, and that can theoretically you could deny the variance, and there may be adjustments they could make to still fit the 25. I think that is also they're saying this is the building they need to be able to operate. This is the parking they need. They would be happy to put the parking closer to Auger Avenue to limit some of that, but we're saying no, we need to push it. They'd be happy to not have a hammerhead that meets city standards, and we're saying no, we need to include that. So I think it's just more of trying to we're trying to work with what they're saying they need to be functional and the ordinances that we have in place.
They can start a balance.
And the constraints of the site.
And my 520 feet is uneducated, unengineered, yes, but.
I have a pending motion.
I have one more question. Yeah, one more question. So you know that I'm challenged by size when I just see it on a plan. Can you give me a comparison of what size that building would be, like to another building in that area? Would it be the size of like Heidi's Grow House? Is it more on the lines of Concrete Science? Like what size would that building be in comparison? Just to give me an idea.
If I remember Napa, if you go to Napa, Natalie, the new Napa,
Yeah.
was that 12,000 or 13,000 square feet?
Well, Napa's a commercial building.
Yeah,
It's not
but I'm
necessarily-
just saying, just a
Yeah, just for
comparison
scale.
of building size. Thank you, everybody, for your patience.
Yeah, Napa is about 12,000 square foot
Okay.
footprint. This is parking, this is a green area, and I believe Napa was also initially approved to have multi-tenant.
Yeah.
So, but as far as a 16,000 square foot building,
There wouldn't
So
be any
bigger than
down there.
Napa.
bigger than Napa, but Napa's a commercial building.
Yeah.
So commercial buildings,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not unusual that there'd be a
Right.
16,000
It
square
just
foot
helps me
industrial.
visualize it.
Yeah, so
Thank
it's
you.
about, so Napa is about 4,000 square feet smaller.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And I will say this, if we were to, there's a route for approval even if the variance is denied. So I think that so just keep that in mind. Because it is a permitted use, the site plan theoretically could be conditioned to reduce the building, to keep it with the impervious surface limit. So I'd be careful to deny the site plan as we deny the variance. And if we want to deny the variance, we would need to bring that back to a different meeting, as I don't have that resolution prepared tonight. So just something to keep in mind. There's a few different options. You could obviously there's the motion on the floor. You could theoretically deny the variance, approve the other two components, or we can table it to get some of the information that they're saying that we need to further understand the variance.
Could we respond to some of the questions?
Well, and the applicant also can speak.
I have a pending motion.
After that, or, can I say after that, there is a pending motion. Is there any other questions from council?
No, I think it was a good discussion. I'm going to vote against my seconded motion, based on the discussion that we had. Since we haven't used that line of logic against any of the other similar shoreland proposals for variance. We're going to hear later about Civic Campus, and one of the things we hear about Civic Campus is we need more commercial industrial development. Here's one looking at us. It's in a place where it's not going to negatively impact residents who are across the street from it. It's not going to negatively impact the neighborhood. I feel that it's a reasonable approval in line with what we've done in the past with similar kinds of shoreland considerations.
Mayor, also in light of Natalie's testimony for the council, I think you also should consider revising the motion if you're going to consider it with that second prong, as far as being that the applicant's request was really for the 27.8 and not the 30. So if that was a staff recommendation, if you will, the council can still review this as approve or deny on that standard, but we probably want to just address that issue now that we have that information.
Okay. That could require.
Yeah, but it's still over the limit, right?
It is.
It's
but
just less over the limit than what staff recommended.
I understand that, but the second plan you're finding was that part of the reason for the denial was that it was over what they needed.
Right.
And I think we should consider revising that in light of what we learned.
So it would need to be a friendly amendment.
Well, if we ended up approving the denial of the motion, then we would issue findings of fact, or do we issue findings of fact before we vote?
If we approved denying the application, we would need to have findings of fact.
But when does that occur? Is that before the vote or after the vote?
I would defer to Councilmember Lanchman on this, but I understood his motion to include a denial of all three with findings.
Yeah.
So, and I believe there were three. So that's the motion that's been seconded, and that's what has to be considered.
Yeah. Would be those rather than the findings. Okay. Call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
And what is this for? For the denial?
For your motion to deny, yes.
Okay. I vote for me. I vote for denial.
Opposed? Nay.
Nay.
Nay. conversation still continues.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Out of respect of Councilmember Leonard and such, with all of the discussion that's happened right now, I would make a motion to table with everything we just talked about. I also would like the building smaller to fit into the size and then the other stuff.
Can I
Go
friendly
ahead.
potential hold on that? Do we want to hear from the applicant first?
I'll
And then,
hold until the applicant. How's that?
perfect.
Can I do that?
You just withdraw your-
Is that okay? I'll withdraw my motion.
All right, applicants?
Good evening. My name is Dan Scholem. I'm a civil site engineer with Brad. He's with Lost Loon. Just wanted to bring up a few quick points. Thanks for your consideration. We came before council under sketch plan review formally. Was it 2 months ago, maybe? And the suggestion to us from council was to get closer to 30%. So I just, I'd like to remind people of that. This site is challenged, or it's got the shoreland overlay, but it's got an industrial use. So typical industrial uses are about 70% impervious. So getting down to 25 is rather a rigorous reduction. And the applicant is pro the environment. They're leaving 78% of the site pervious, native buffers, et cetera. So they're making a great effort to on that front. They're also doing LEED certification, which would be the first of these types of facilities. I'll just speak to the wetland has been delineated. We have that agreement with the watershed. So that's been agreed upon by all parties, and we're clear of that. The fire turning movements were designed by our transportation group. So unless there are further comments on those from city staff, I don't, any fire truck can make that movement. And we can show that via exhibit. We have that ready, so.
Can you speak to whether it'll be sprinkled?
It will.
Information?
Yes, absolutely, yes. I confirmed that earlier during the meeting, so that is the plan. And then as far as the wetland, the creek high water level, we're actually using the top of bank, which is more conservative than the high water level, and we're well clear of that.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
If you shrink the size of the building, you can easily hit 27, right? And if you, or hit 25, and if you hit 25, do you still need the variance? Why not just shrink the building?
Well, I can't speak to the economics of it, but the site has been empty for 30 years.
I'd like to speak to the economics of that. So in Minnesota, based on the license type we've applied for, I'm Brad of Arden, Lost Loon Cannabis.
Hi, Brad.
Based on Minnesota law, we have a micro business license type that we've applied and received preliminary approval for. Now, this allows us to have 5,000 square feet of flowering cannabis. This works, functions as our kind of like upper limit of what our business can produce. Reducing our footprint at this point means that we need to reduce that, and that means that we're going to be making less money and less able to afford to be able to stay open and pay taxes. So it does represent a very large burden because we are only allowed so much by the state. This site will mean that we are not even at that limit. I believe our total limit is 4,800 feet right now, which we're happy with. But any further reduction starts to come and make it so we're going to be less and less profitable and less functional as a business. We've gone, in my opinion, above and beyond to respect the environment. With this, we're going for LEED certification, which I'm not sure everyone is familiar with, but is our country's environmental standard. And with this project, we'll be probably the first LEED certified cannabis grow up in the country. We're making efforts above and beyond to really make sure, because we deeply care about the environment. It's very, very important to us. It's reflected from our name up to the green principles we're building this whole business on. So yeah, I appreciate respect, but we've done our homework. We looked at those high water lines. We've been there. We're making sure we're not causing this impact, and we have a dedication to not impacting the environment. But we want to be functional as a business. We want to support all those staff members that we're going to have. We want to be a good neighbor. We want to be good for this community. And the building as it is what really lets us function as a business. Cutting it down, we can do it, but it's going to hurt dramatically. Thank you.
Oh, I like the entrepreneurial spirit. Thank you. My concern is that a self-created hardship is not grounds for a variance.
I understand, but I feel
And I get shrinking the building, you satisfy, the 25, but you have to make more money, so you need the bigger building, and it's a tough spot.
And I understand your opposition, and we were functioning off of that 30% number that the council gave to us earlier. We're trying to make everything work. We're trying to make it. We respect you guys. Like I said, we care deeply.
Just real quick, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
At concept plan, there is nothing in stone. We've been very
Oh,
crystal
for sure.
clear about that, and to say that we said 30% is a number, I don't recall that. I need to go back and review. It's.
I understand. It's more of a, we're trying our best to make this work.
I understand. This is one level of production.
As in that we're
Single story.
I'm sorry?
Single story.
Yeah.
Is there a way you can shrink the building and add a
It becomes
height to do stuff?
It becomes
I know
cost
it costs more
prohibitive.
money, but-
Cost prohibitive in that
Okay.
we're dealing with environmental controls on a high level. We're building IMP panel rooms within,
Understood.
so essentially building within a building, and adding another story to that becomes insanely expensive.
You've looked at it.
And on top of that, to deal with the,
If I remember right, at one point in that concept plan conversation, you guys had made the comment, another story, but it might have been said too, that it was cost prohibitive to go
Yes.
up than the footprint size. Thank you.
thank you.
Anyone else? Natalie, just a question on as individual sprinkled, anything that we need to maybe add into the resolution if we were to approve it to confirm that's a requirement?
Yeah, we could certainly do that. And another thing we could also, I think, I wanted to point out one clause in the variance that I believe we put in there, was that if they can have a final plan that's less than 30%, that would lock it in. That would be the final percentage. So if they come back with a plan that's 29%, then it's not that they could expand the impervious surface limit at a later time. It would be locked in at the final approved plan. So I believe I had put that language in there. I'm just trying to find that. But sprinkler, I think one thing that we could do in the variance.
Can we cap the variance at 27.8? Not 27.9?
I don't
27.8.
know how that would be possible with what I'm hearing from engineering and public safety. And then the front setback that they need to adjust for. Because I think they're gonna have to move, there's gonna be a drive aisle that's gonna expand about 20 feet to get the parking lot to meet the 50-foot setback. And the hammerhead, or the turnaround, I think is closed, but does not meet city engineering specs. So unless we are saying we also we would prefer those variances to allow them to have a reduced setback, and allow them to have a hammerhead, which we would have to kind of go back through the process to have that, then I don't see how they're coming back at 27.8%, but I'll let the engineer speak to that if he has any other thoughts.
No, other than, if we need to move parking stalls, we're not really increasing. We would just kind of relocate. And then also, just real quick, another hardship that we do have is, we're asking for a reduction in parking as part of this proposal. If we were to meet the city code for parking requirements, the parking lot would be even bigger, so.
Mr. Mayor?
Just a hardship.
Just real quick, in the interest of time and such, and thank you applicants very much for your information. If I could move to table this with that extension, with a couple of caveats in that,
With what extension?
the 60 days
60,
extension.
okay. All right.
And with the caveats, while I understand Councilmember Landerman's 25%, and that is our ordinance of variances being requested, I like the conversation or the comment that Mark had is limited to the 27.8% is the maximum, not a variable of 30, and it already sounds like staff and the applicant have a few more I's to dot and T's to cross, so to speak. I'd rather do that than go from there with our input this evening, our official input, not a concept plan input.
In terms of motion,
Did I say that okay?
structured okay, Jim? I think
So I understand the motion is to table.
Table
If you want
and
to- I guess you could specify.
I'd still want to specify the maximum number be 27.8%.
May I make a
If
request?
that's what we're down
Yes.
right now.
Is that a motion?
I thought I was making it.
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion, and I would like to hear from Al.
Yes, I'm 60 days puts our timeline back in a really, really bad way. I understand the desire for more.
We're trying to work with you.
I understand, but
I think staff,
August
by
13th.
understanding, it would be August
Request for
13th.
a 60-day extension, but we would have you back at the August 13th council, and we would have worked through some of these items. Technically,
Alright.
you would have had to work through these items on the back end anyway.
I understand.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
I don't, we want to help you.
We're
You've done an
we're
awful
worried
lot.
about our construction window and the time limits on
We
our
are
preliminary
aware of all
application.
those things with
Thank you.
all the other things that's come in front of us. But
Thank you.
What's your name again?
Brad of Arden.
Brad, you get to 27.8, you'll get my support,
Okay,
okay?
that's a
No.
promise.
I'm telling you right here.
It's
Okay.
public record.
You will get my support, but you gotta get the number down.
Heard,
Not close, you gotta
No.
get there or below.
heard.
Fair?
That's fair to me.
Okay.
Thank you.
John's got something to say.
I could pull down that motion, it was just in the interest of what the applicant's testimony was on that. I'm wondering if there is council support for the motion just without the staff amendment. Right, the application is requesting it at 27.8. It seems like maybe there is support for that, just not going to the 30, which was a staff adjustment. So I'm just asking the question.
So approval without the additional.
So it wouldn't need to be delayed.
Yeah, we could approve the variance tonight at
Correct.
27.8.
And it would be their job to get to that number.
We can approve it at 27.8?
Yeah, we would just make
That's
it
the
easy for
application,
Okay,
so you do
all
have
right,
that.
you got me. All right, yeah, my support.
So now what are we gonna do to
withdraw your
reverse it and do things differently?
We withdraw the motion.
Somebody seconded it.
I'll withdraw my second.
I'll withdraw the motion.
Okay, then I will make a motion.
Any objections?
This resolution, variance to be the 27.
Deb, you keeping up over there?
Yeah, I have two things we want, 27.8.
Thank God it's recorded.
27.8,
And then we wanted to add a clause about,
and adding the sprinkler requirement.
correct, yeah, so,
That's my motion.
I'd second.
Yes.
Jeremy did it already.
Nichols, second. Any discussion on that?
Should we wait and let the crowd disperse? I feel like we've taxed their.
We're almost done, guys. Thanks for heading out. Thanks for coming,
So
actually.
just to clarify, this is to amend resolution to do that, and then we'll vote on it.
Separate.
Separate. Yep. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended resolution.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
None.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations.
We beat that dead horse.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys for putting up with us.
Thank you. Best of luck.
We'll give everybody a minute if you want to head out.
Yeah, no hard feelings.
I appreciate you hanging, but,
And anyone who's in the atrium that would like a closer seat,
We got
feel free to come on in.
$20.
What's the next topic, the campus?
Yes.
Okay.
Need a break. Take a 5-minute recess, come back at 8:35. We're to call the meeting back to order. We'll continue with 9A, which is the civic campus update.
All right, before I introduce our presenters, Mayor and Council, I just wanted to say thank you to you and to staff. It was a really inopportune time for me to have to be gone last week, but for folks understanding, I did 6 combat tours, and the longest one I did was 14 months. And the unit that I did that with, we lost 53 men, and they had a deactivation in Alaska last week. And so that unit is no longer in the Army inventory. It was the first and only Arctic Airborne Reconnaissance Squadron. And so we had 360 people that were handpicked. I buried 12 of those men, and we had 99 that were wounded. So it was a pretty emotional week for me to close that up. So I'm super grateful to staff because, you know, the train keeps moving, especially here in Corcoran. And you had given us some things to do, and I wasn't here to do it, but they took care of it, and I want to give you an update on a couple of those things.
That was great, by the way, in your absence, and I'm glad you took that because I saw the picture. We talked about it. Very.
So, thank you for your support in doing that. Again, like I said, I recognize that it was not a great time with what's going on with our organization for me to be gone for a week, but also as a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and I'm grateful for your support in doing that.
Great pictures, by the way. Thank you for sharing.
You had directed staff to build a mailer, and so we worked hard on that. The mailer is in front of you, and hopefully it will be in residents' mailboxes within the next 72 hours. It should be this.
Oh, yes.
It's a 4-page document, all the things that we had talked about. I had emailed you a draft, and then thank you to BKV and to Kraus Anderson for their work in making this happen with your feedback. And so it went, obviously it went to the printer, it got printed, and it has been mailed. I don't know exactly what date. We'll decide when the Postal Service does their thing.
You didn't find any mistakes, did you?
No,
well, not after this.
You nailed it.
Not after this.
Great job doing that, though.
Yeah, so it was finished. Thank you for the collaboration. It is in the mail. I can't state when it's going to arrive in residence. If any resident, and this is on the record, does not have one, we had lots of extra ones printed. You can pick one up here next week at the front desk. An important date that talks about is the public hearing on August 13th. We've gotten a lot of questions about what a reverse referendum looks like. There's a beautiful blue box on it that explains what the reference to the statute is, what the requirements are of the reverse referendum. The reverse referendum gets triggered by a public hearing. And so we haven't had the public hearing yet, so a petition shouldn't begin until the petition is responding to the public hearing that will occur on August 13th. And then it would be only, a reverse referendum would be in response only if council approves the bonding. And so it's in response to council's action. Council has not taken an action yet, and so we cannot have a petition yet. So just wanting to clarify that timeline. It's a 30-day timeline, and because of when the window happens, the actual closure of it and its printed on it will be September 14th, which is a Monday. So any questions about the mailer? Okay. With that, I would like to introduce our team from BKV that has been working with us. So we started out with some guidance. We've been meeting sometimes multiple times a day, sometimes I think we're in iteration 48. And so we have Trace, Mike, and Paul. I'll let them come up. You know, Ringo couldn't make it. So they're going to come and share with you where we're at schematic design. The ask from staff today and from them, this is still high level. Schematic design is 30% of the project. Okay, so this is to get the big blocks there. You're going to see small blocks, but small blocks are easy to move around. It's important that we get the big blocks of spaces, and then we talk about any particular functional concerns that council has so that we can incorporate them into the design. But so it's functional, strategic perspective, and then also this is important for us to try and get a dollar value on it, how the council would like the building to look. And so they're going to talk about that. So subject to your questions, I turn it over to BKV.
Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jay. Mayor and council, it's a pleasure to be with you again tonight. We're going to give you a quick update. Like Jay said, this is an interim update. We're still working on schematic design. We'll clarify our roles just for your benefit. My name is Paul Michelle. I'm the Vice President of the Government Sector Practice for BKV Group. I'm the partner in charge on the project.
I'm Trey Schuck. I'm a Senior Design Principal at BKV Group, Senior Design Partner, I should say. Yep.
I'm Michael Healy with BKV. I'm a partner and project manager. Thank you. So if you want to go to the next slide, we're just going to talk real high on the agenda, kind of what we're going to talk about tonight, and then I'm going to turn it over to Trace and Mike to talk through the design. So they're going to be talking through the schematic design phase progress. Again, this is about 30% of where we are right now as we're working through. We're really excited to get your feedback from the development of the design. So they'll go through floor plans and imagery options here shortly. Then we'll close up with some anticipated next steps, and then we're going to love to hear your feedback during the discussion period.
So next, I don't know which TV I should talk to. So we're going to talk about design progress. We'll look through some plans. We'll look through some exterior visioning, we call it, which is conceptualization and inspiration for the look and feel of the building, mostly on the exterior at this point. And then, as Paul mentioned, we'll also get into the plans themselves in more detail. We'll start with the plans and then get to the visioning, and then we're actually going to show you some different kinds of studies we do, design studies, renderings, and different quality levels and different types of ways that we look at the architecture of the building. So next, we'll start with a site plan. I love this site, by the way. North happens to be to the left, by the way. St. Therese is down on the lower part of the image. The site itself is very wooded right now. We are carving into those woods, but we've made every effort we could to kind of frame the building in the woods, basically. There's really two halves to this building. There's sort of the public side, and then the back of house or working side for both staff of City Hall as well as the police. There's a lot of requirements in a dual-use facility, a lot of requirements for a top-notch police facility with regards to access points that sort of begin to steer where you come and go, basically, on the site, and areas of the site that you want to maintain security away from the public, and then the public side. Obviously, it's a city hall, too, so it's a highly public building. You don't get a lot of opportunities to design and build a new city hall. And this community is growing, and it's something that should embody the history and heritage of Corcoran as a city yesterday, today, and tomorrow. On this site plan, the building is primarily in the middle portion there, and then you see staff parking on the top, public parking on the right, and more staff and vehicle areas on the left side. What I consider kind of the front yard or front side of the building, the public side, is really to the right, where the parking lot is for public, and along City Center to the south edge. There's a couple things that we wanted to tap into, and we've, as Jay mentioned, we've done lots of studies of where the building best fits on the site, et cetera. And when you get into the plans, this will make a little more sense as to why things are happening the way they are, because it's not just about the form, it's about the function. So we set the building back to align with St. Therese, and we're also creating a public open space that sort of complements the band shell, and in fact can be used as an expansion to it, in a sense, and highlighting that sense of arrival and something right on the corner intersection where you're actually pulling into the site. So that's a couple features that are on the site plan. And then we're also very sensitive to the building's impact on St. Therese to the south and the impact on the residents there as well. So let's go to the plans next. So Mike's going to talk to the...
May I ask for a quick question?
Sure.
Just on an overview?
Yeah.
Maybe a couple of good questions at that level.
Yeah.
Do you want to go back a slide?
Yeah.
Yeah, please. So say in 2050,
Mhm.
we need to expand.
Right.
We talked about this potentially allowing for some expansion in some direction. Where would you anticipate that happening, when and if it's necessary?
Yeah, good question. Expansion on the police side and potentially even on City Hall side could potentially happen on top of the fleet garage, which is sort of in that brownish area in the middle lower portion. That's one option. Or you push into the staff parking to the north. Those are the two more obvious positions that you could add. I think there really isn't a lot of addition space on the public side, on the parking lot side, so. Good question, though.
And then with the idea of having that public green opposite from the band shell,
Yes.
maybe this is a public safety question, but if there was, a major event happening and you wanted to have an extended space, would you close that road during those kinds of events, or would you just have it disconnected by the street?
That's a tough question. There would be the potential, maybe once it was connected out on 10, you'd want multiple ingress and egress. Obviously, public safety, police are gonna need to come and go from that city center drive at all times. So I'm not sure how we would accommodate closing that down, if we were to try and, for instance, close the intersection there. I don't know.
You're talking about if there was an event at like City Hall?
Or an event at St. Therese.
Couldn't you just?
Best
I
case,
would
it'd probably have to
be-
be mid-block. That would be the best case scenario until we have the connection to 10.
But I would
aligned with
also
the building.
guess if an
Yeah.
incident was happening at either of that, whatever is going on at the band shell, probably we can.
That's a really good question. And I forgot to mention a couple site circulations too. You'll notice that there's kind of a loop circulation from east to west and north to south. There's a specific reason why the westerly one, or the northerly one, which is left on the page, aligns with the curb cut across the street. So when vehicles are responding, they can turn right or left, okay? There's two other curb cuts mid-block, and those are primarily ingress, or you can only turn in if you're heading to the left or north. And one of them's for just general fleet access into that garage, and then the other one's more for an intake purpose, which has a sally port, et cetera, and that's in the actual plan itself. Okay.
Thank you.
Is that good? Okay.
I'll talk you through the plans here at a high level. And like Jay spoke to, this is at a very early concept level in the plans, and we haven't worked out all the adjacencies and operational flow with the staff yet. So don't get too caught on the little room. I'm just going to talk at a larger picture here. So the lower level is, the blue portion is primarily for police operational space. So the kind of larger band at the bottom left is a indoor fleet garage, and that has potential to also have some City Hall fleet engineering vehicles and so forth in there as well. There is some training down here in the lower level for PD for defensive tactical training. They have a holding area that would be for temporary holding and for DUI processing. There is evidence space down here for both processing a vehicle and securing a vehicle, and then also evidence space for just odds and ends for processing and storing long-term and larger items. The lower level also will include the primary patrol workspace, so they have their briefing area, their report writing area, their locker space, duty bags, all their equipment needs for loading squads and keeping their bags and all that kind of stuff ready to go for response. The green areas that you're seeing there are shared between City Hall and PD functions, so those are areas that staff can kind of commingle and travel through the building without having CJIS compliance and so forth. So the large box on the top right is actually a shared fitness space. So all staff would have access to that fitness space and a small shower area and locker space for staff there for personal items. The larger orange block you're seeing on the top there is a garage space for the utilities department. So there's a couple bays there for them to park their larger equipment in, and some shop and storage space for parts and maintenance items. And then the utilities team also on this lower level is going to have a mudroom space where they can come in with their their field boots and clothes and stuff like that and change and keep those down here in kind of the
the more dirty area of the facility, because they also have workspace up above, and they'll have a small changing area and shower space there to clean up if they're out in the field and need to do so. That primarily covers the lower level here. If there's any questions on the lower level?
I didn't notice a padded training room for like hand-to-hand type trainings. Is that someplace else in the facility?
That is it. That was not labeled correctly on this floor plan, but is one of the larger blue boxes there in the center would be,
Like
that would be the
evidence
defensive.
standard 171, that
Yep,
one?
yep,
Yeah.
it's about 1,000 square foot room would be used for that defensive tactical training.
Okay.
Where are you looking at? I'm not following.
Right here.
Just to the right of that gold and yellow in the middle there, it says evidence, but it was supposed to be tactical training.
And evidence garage, evidence at 871.
You're not supposed to look at the labels on the little rooms. Zoom out.
They don't pay us a lot, but that is one of the things that we do.
Sure. Another element on there is the firing range too, which is the long skinny box there on the north side. We very purposely put that obviously in the most secure part of the building, but also on the, not on the street side, but highly sheltered.
It's always contained, everything is contained down there and stuff.
Yep.
Good job.
And also not under City Hall. We talked to two organizations that had it underneath City Hall operations,
Yeah.
and they had to change the operations of the range because it was too distracting to staff.
Yeah.
We don't even like it below police buildings, because there's daily work that happens above, and, you know, separating it from any occupiable space above or adjacent is good.
There is a large evidence room that's 311 square feet below that tactical room.
Yes.
Is there any way to consolidate that with the other evidence pieces? Because you've got a nice logical flow from intake to processing to storage, but then you have a separate section that's not connected.
Yeah, evidence is actually, the plan has changed just today, even before the meeting here, so those boxes moved around. The large evidence room adjacent to that evidence garage is actually beneficial, so they can transfer larger items and store them securely through that processing garage space. And then the rest of those evidence rooms, the smaller rooms are actually coming down to that larger evidence room that you're seeing there, and the tactical training is going up by the fitness area.
Yeah.
So similar to like what we saw in New Hope, if they have to have a car,
Right.
that's where that would go off of the garage, or bikes, or you saw a whole bunch of stuff that was in
There's a
there.
nice adjacency about putting the tactical training next to the fitness area, because they can do cardiac training on a treadmill and then go in there and you know, do hand-to-hand kind of stuff to keep up, yeah, so.
So those two will flip-flop, and then you'll have everything consolidated as far as evidence goes. And then you'll have all the kind of physical activities in the locker rooms and everything, right, adjacent to each other.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I can go to the, so this is gonna be level one, and you'll see in the renderings here shortly that the building is kind of, it's on a slope site, so part of the building's partially exposed on one side, and the level one is really kind of the main ground level where public are gonna access the building primarily, and staff will be also from that staff lot that's on the side there. So the public zones are shown in kind of that pinkish purple, and that stair kind of in the bottom middle there that's public because it's access from the upper level for egress down through there. So that would be access controlled with doors, door controls, so people can't go into the police area, but it will have free egress out of the building from that stair.
It's a pretty efficient plan in that, I'll call it rose-colored area, mauve, whatever you want to call it, is the main public lobby. And that has the main service desk for City Hall functions, but also the police lobby on the bottom part in blue. So there's also a stair, a public stair, an open public stair that will be available to go upstairs to, which you'll see in the next level is where council chambers are, community room and training. There's also an elevator that's that small rectangle that's got the little heavier surround around it. To the left of that elevator is a stair that goes down to the police on the lower level, and that's a very common up and down, highly used stair. If you think patrol down on the main level and captains and investigations and records on this level. There's a lot of kind of back and forth throughout the day. There's also a break room on this floor for both city hall staff as well as police, and they'll have an outdoor adjacent rooftop terrace on top of that fleet garage below. And that'll show up in some of the renderings, and it'll make a little more sense three-dimensionally with some of those renderings.
So it's 3 floors?
Yeah, it's a total of 3 floors. It's like a walkout basement with a 2-story house on top of it.
Yep.
It's kind of
And
an analogy.
you can see how the building here, the colored area, and then the roof areas that extend off, those are very easy places to plan for future expansion. And it's a great opportunity to kind of use that for
Yep,
future.
and they be structured as such.
There's already stairs and egress and stuff to support some of that.
It's one of the things I wanted to make mention was because of that grade change, the hill, where it's a lot of program area, and it could conceptually turn into a very big building, a very big pancake of a building, or a tall building. And by being able to sort of push it into the hillside, it's really that shape that is the apparent building size, even though it's much larger below. And that's one of the qualities of the site that I actually say work really well for this facility.
So for the city hall spaces on this level, the apartment areas on this level are the departments that we spoke with staff about that are going to have the highest community contact day to day. So these would be community development, engineering, and some of those other staff members that are going to be meeting with people at the service counter, and then we have some breakout spaces and conference rooms and so forth for them to provide service to the community. And that the lobby space then is 2-story and will bring you up to the council chambers and some of the other amenity spaces for community, such as the community room and training room space.
Something else to note on this, on the top center of the city hall side is the staff entry. And that's directly off the staff parking. That lot could be a secure lot, depending on how you work it. Because there may be I could see a situation where there may be police staff that may use that parking lot. They would take that stair down potentially, or they'd have to walk around the front door. There's less stalls available on the lower level than there are up here. And that's something that we're still sort of working through.
Is that the lower pink box, the stair? Is that what you're referring to? And that goes into the PD side, correct?
Yeah, there's actually 3 stairs on this drawing, if you look closely. There's one in the pink, there's one in the blue, and then there's one up on the top in the orange. That's the one I was talking about, as a staff stair.
Yeah, some of the stairs, like the stair that the cursor's on right now, that is more of an open stair. That's it's not like an enclosed stair you have to go in a doorway to. So it's meant to be more open, so there's a good connection between the staff that are on the upper level and staff that are on the main level here. And the PD have that same connection that Teresa's talking about, where they have an open stair that connects down to where control are functioning on the lowest level.
Yep.
Jump ahead, maybe.
Sorry, one more question on that last one. There's a door going from the vestibule into the lobby and a second door adjacent to it. Is there a reason you want to have dual access?
One of the needs for the police is after hours access by the public into their lobby. The door into the main lobby is sort of the general day-to-day door.
Okay.
So that's the reasoning for the.
Yeah, so after hours, our understanding, talking with the department, would be that vestibule would be somewhat secured on the inside, so there would be probably a phone that they could call, and that inside door that would open, and they could meet somebody and bring them into the PD sub-lobby without bringing them into the.
Okay, makes sense, thank you.
Kind of like our little closet greeting area now into our police department.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the highest level, so what we'll call level 3. And this is the pink area, or red area there is kind of, it spills from the lobby space, but then also spills into 2 larger rooms that are on the bottom right. That's going to be a community room space. And then that's going to also be the city's training and EOC space. And those spaces are right now designed that they can expand into a larger classroom training space to accommodate up to 100 people seated. So that has a operable wall that could be retracted and used for larger training events.
And conversely, it could be a larger community room
May I real quick? At one point, we were talking about that community room doubling has overflow for council. This has changed a little bit then.
So we couldn't get it to work on the site.
Deal. Don't need to explain. Thank you.
So we spent a lot of time, I didn't want to let that go, but in order to make it function, it was going to be right over the garage, and it wasn't a great view, it was a better view to itself. So for people wanting to come in and have a good experience, if they're renting a room for a family activity or community service organization meeting or something.
Yep.
Yeah. And right now, the council chambers is directly at the top of the stairs, and it has really good transparency and space, and it does have expansion space or overflow space into the lobby. There's enough capacity there for some seating and things like that.
Could be with windows and those kind
Yep.
of things.
Yes,
Understood.
absolutely.
That's kind of our plan. And then you could possibly have, windows to the wetlands or somewhere too, with some kind of view out of that space, so.
Could I ask a quick question? So I noticed on the top floor, we have election storage up there. Are we anticipating having elections on that top floor? Like people, when they come to vote, they'd be on the top floor?
That is our understanding right now, talking with staff, is that they'd probably utilize either the community room or one of those training rooms and sequence people through that space. So having now the election storage kind of tucked up there adjacent to those polling locations was ideal for them.
So like in the community room is like where elections would be held?
Or the training room.
Okay.
So that we could still have something.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep.
And
So
then,
there's
for
elevator and
perspective, how
access.
big is 272 square feet? Sorry, I always ask the spatial questions because I have no.
Double and outside storage for a lawn and garden deal.
Like this room, is this 272 square feet?
Oh, no. It's about 1,000.
About a grand.
Okay, because I think 272 is way too small if we're anticipating
10
what our
by 20,
population will
10
be.
by 25.
Way too small.
And again, those details, the moving of the walls and stuff are something that we're definitely going to get into.
Yep.
City clerk hasn't been involved in the conversation to that
I'm
level.
I'm speaking for
Most
Deb.
important person we're at.
That's right, I'm speaking for
So
Deb.
before we get that, we've been trying to get the larger functional spaces, and then we'll figure out how big the boxes need to be within the square footage that we have.
I would say that elections are probably a very functional thing and that it should be talked about before we get too in-depth of where things go. And that's why I brought up the question, because I think it's something that gets overlooked, and it's something that is a core function of a city. And that storage room is way too small.
Would this room hold election equipment for all
Yes,
the
this
precincts?
size, this would be good.
Half this size?
And just, no, that would be too small. Because you do all your testing in there, you have, I mean, if you're talking about 30,000 people at some point, you're gonna have 45 poll books, probably 12 to 14 DS200s. Yes, you definitely need space at least this size for election storage.
Yeah, agree.
Noted.
So the other pieces here on this level, the council chambers is going to have access to both kind of a back corridor space that connects to a broadcast room and media room, and then there's also a connection potentially from the council chambers into the office space for City Hall. So the office space on this level for City Hall is, I think it was HR and finance and IT and admin. So they have a small workspace up here, but a lot of the floor plate up here is more of those community-focused and larger kind of group spaces.
Also, the council chamber that what's labeled as corridor, which I would almost say is like a pre-function area in a sense, and then the open to below. They're all in a nice clean alignment, and you'll see that it doesn't capture as well in the renderings yet, but as you walk into the facility, you'll basically walk into a two-story space. There'll be a stair there, there'll be a balcony, and you'll see the city council chambers. There's a nice formal sort of quality about it right now. And I love the flexibility of the community room and the training room, and being able to open and close the wall basically to expand it and make them much more multi-use. And we're providing storage, a credenza, potentially even a small kitchen counter type setup in the community room as well. And to the point, that's elevated from the parking level, so you're looking out above that stuff at what's beyond, and it'll be a nice view. Yeah, okay. So next we have a little fun. We call this visioning, and we start looking at, we've taken a lot of feedback over the last several months, and we're trying to distill it down into something of a bit of an inspiration. And so we start looking at broad things in conceptual ways, so you gotta think abstract and not too literal per se. And so we look at sort of iconic elements within the history of Corcoran, and it's really been a rural community most of its existence. It's transforming very rapidly right now. And but one of the things we looked at was some of the built environment within that history, that DNA in a sense. That lower right image is one that captured me, and that's the barn. And the barn was mentioned many, many times in rural design, rural architecture. One of the elements of the barn traditionally is it's a lot of times had a lower level to it that was built with stone, and then above it was wood, typically. A lot of times metal roof, metal clad. Over time it's transformed into more what we see today in light industrial buildings, steel buildings, that type of thing. How does that translate into architecture? Well, we'll kind of walk you through how we took some of that concept, that idea, that inspiration into working for this particular building. Some of the other images you see on that, the barn with the big window in it, in the center, that ability to look inside of it. Now, that's not a traditional barn set up right now with a big window in it, but it's fascinating to see what's inside of those large containers. Then we look at things like what's a current material that buildings are in a rural setting or in even an industrial setting are clad in. A lot of times metal comes into play. And then this is, I mentioned, a building of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. We're looking at vocabulary of the design of the building that speaks to all three of those at the same time on an abstract level. So next. So we start to look at some inspirational architecture that might tap into some of those early concepting images. And believe me, we've had hundreds of images. We had to pick out our favorite 8 or whatever. So some of these you start to see that stone and that wood and that metal, but also some traditional forms, some contemporary forms, different patterning of windows, different compositions and different juxtapositions of materials and that type of thing. Then we start to look at the building we have been planning for at this point. So we'll go to the next image. So these are tiny for a reason, so you don't get caught up on the details, but we're looking at this, at the shape of these floor plans that we just went through. And you'll see that it's got a lot of articulation to it. I mentioned it's a big building. We want to be a good neighbor today and tomorrow. So the building nestles itself into the hillside. It doesn't have too much impact to the neighbor to the south across the street. We're respecting setbacks where we can to expand connection between sites, etc. We're also trying to maintain that level of sort of a public side and sort of a secure or staff side. So, for instance, the upper left image, those two facades, the bottom and the left, are really the public side of the building. If you look at the image just below it, that's the staff side. Now we have walls extending that sort of secure that back side and screen the back side, represented in this particular iteration. And again, this is a work in progress, so don't take it too literally unless you like it. Then you can take it as literally as you want. So we're going to move forward. And we start to look at the mass itself and start to apply some of those materials. We chose not to do the lower left because it had a flag of Texas in it for some reason. Paul pointed that out to me. We actually churned some of this through a lot of different methods. For instance, and I'm giving you a little insight into how architects design. We start to make massing mode. We start to apply materials. We use three-dimensional computers, software to build these models so we can see them accurately to scale. If I'm 6 feet tall, that's what I'm going to see. Those types of things. But now we have the benefit of some newer software like AI type software where we can say, you know, use these basic elements and apply it to this shape. We told you where we need windows, where we don't need windows. Let's see what it gives you. And for some reason AI still can't figure out flags, so we got the flag of Texas in there. Ignore that. What it is doing is it helps us get outside of our own preconceptions as designers, so it's a great tool that way. So let's go next. And we want to look at things abstractly and maybe a little more realistically, and this is where some of that software actually is very beneficial, because when you see something in a little more realistic way, you actually can connect with it a little more literally. And so we do that on purpose, even though we're at a conceptual level. This, again, is a snapshot. These images start to look at, does wood make sense here in a way, or an expression of wood makes sense? We were looking at, remember I talked about the stone foundation of the barn. You'll notice at the base of the building, on the upper right image, for instance, that base down at the street level is shown as stone. Then when you get up to the parking lot, it steps up and there's a stone wall. And then there's a building resting on top of that. Some of the stone wall becomes the safety zone, the secure zone, and that you pass through. So there's sort of gateways shown that way. And then you also start to get a sense of that open public space. That's kind of an offering back to the community on the lower left. So next, we kind of zeroed in on a more metal and stone building with a little more of the wood around the main lobby, and as you move into the building, that type of material expression. So this is down at street level, right at, is it 75th and City Center? Yeah? Yeah, I always get the 75th and 7th. I get issues with numbers there, but there you get a sense of the connectivity, some of the rich landscaping, that type of thing. And again, the building kind of steps back from the side, being a good neighbor to St. Teresa across the street. It also presents its narrowest side toward that multifamily housing across the street. Next, we'll go through a bunch of images. Buildings exist seasonally too, so we can test it really quickly. Let's see what it feels like in the winter or the fall or the spring. The lower right image is something that I wanted to highlight, and that's more or less the view. And I mentioned that fleet garage is low, so what the residents of St. Teresa really see is above that roof into the woods. And we even had the thought of maybe that rooftop becomes a green roof. And then we highly landscape along the street edge. It's an idea. That roof also presents itself potentially as a green roof to those break rooms that we mentioned for the police and the city staff. Green and outside is a healthy wellness factor for both elements of this facility. Let's see, and then again, that lower left image shows that back of house. The materials back there down low are tough, precast probably, you know, easy, quick to construct, but can take the abuse it's going to have for years to come. Above, we're thinking more metal clad in the office areas, but so we'll keep going.
Well, I was just going to say, I really like the way that this concept responds to St. Teresa across the street. Like Trey said, the narrowest part of the large part of the building is what's visible to the residents. And then they've got the natural materials of the stone and the landscaping and everything else that they're going to see. So I think this has been very successful as a concept, as it exists today, and how we might respond and respect the neighbors across the street.
Yeah. It seems to be working nicely, so, okay, let's go. Let's keep moving. It's getting late. So, public side, again, different seasons, a little closer when you're in the parking lot, public side, and approaching the building. And what that's hinting at is that idea of a two-story lobby that actually will be very transparent and get back to the council chambers on the second floor, but also all the service and contact down on the main level. And then the big windows on the second floor to the left of that are the community room and training rooms, so, and their windows. Next, we'll just keep going. Little bigger, little better. This is spring, by the way. We thought maybe the hill incorporates some landscape that might have some seating or something that supports the band shell across the street, and it's kind of like overflow type seating. On the corner, I had mentioned just out of view, this idea that there could be a public plaza type something, like it could be public art, it could be memorial, it could be a lot of things, but that's for the landscapers, not the architects. Next, and again, parking lot side a little bigger so you can see a little more detail. And again, snapshot in time, conceptual. But I love the idea of the sort of metal and stone on the outside, but more of the wood and inviting and those types of materials in the main public spaces. Next, I think this is probably the last one. This would be actually as you walk up the walk next to the drive and toward the main entry. So that's our first look at architecture, visioning, expression, where does it come from? And we're excited about where it is right now, but we're also very excited to hear what you have to say. Your feedback is absolutely welcome and important to us, to the group. Again, this is a building that is a legacy building for your city for many years to come, and it's wants to rise to that moment in time, in our opinion, as designers anyway. So with that, I think that's the end of the images, and then we have next steps. And
Can we talk next steps before we go to discussion?
Yeah, just our next steps are gonna be working with staff and council and so forth to finish up schematic design phase, and we're targeting around early September to do that, and that includes continue to refine the floor plans and exterior design approach, looking at the site concept further with the civil engineer to look at grading and that sort of stuff. And then working with construction manager to continue to refine an implementation schedule and confirm cost estimates. So, thank you.
Any questions?
I have remarks, but no.
You
guys open to questions?
I have questions for you here in a minute.
Okay.
I guess I have
It wasn't a public hearing, so in the interest of time, there will be opportunity.
to have more discussion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Okay, well, I guess my concern is, again, I'm gonna revert back to elections, just because I know how busy elections are. And I'm worried that having an elevator to get to the election voting area could pose some difficulty. I know there's a staircase right there, but for people that are ADA accessible, I know the elevator's there, but I would just have some concerns about that with where that's located. And again, I said this already, but the storage room is way too small. And then where would the AV room be located for council chambers? Because normally it's located like either right across the hall or very close proximity.
Do you want to go back to the plan?
We have a broadcast room located on the second floor right now. The location is not quite determined yet, but it's adjacent proximity to the council chambers.
Yeah, it's the orange box. There's a back hallway there connecting to council chambers. It's the light, the gold below the chambers there. And again, things like the restrooms that are, a lot of these elements, just like the evidence in that tactical training, this is the kind of conversation we have all day long, flip-flopping, see which one's better. So this is great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to welcome the residents here tonight. Some of you came to say this is moving too fast, and you're worried what it does to your tax bill. Both are fair. And I'd rather answer them tonight than to pat you on the head, thank you for coming, and moving on. My position is this: I support building this. Our staff are in a building that doesn't fit them, and our police train in a garage, and that's for real. My concern is we may be building more than we need, sooner than we need it, and we're asking residents to carry that debt for 20 years. On the speed, the public sees this design on August 4th. We authorized $40 million in bonds on August 13th. That's 9 days. And the design itself, including the final cost estimate, isn't done until early September, 3 weeks after the vote. If a resident says that feels fast, I don't have a good answer because it is fast. On cost, the residents were mailed one number, $323 a year starting in 2028. The mailer did not indicate that it climbs. The administrator tells me that roughly $25 a year, about $800 by the end of the term, which is near $11,000 cumulative on a median house. Can I finish, please? I asked for that figure in writing July 9th, and it's the one cost item that did not make it into any version of the mailer. And if my math is wrong, I'd welcome correction. But a $592,000 assessment is not a $592,000 income. We have retirees and young families who stretched to buy properties here. Escalation lands differently on them than it does in a spreadsheet. I do have a few questions for BKV. Our survey gave residents a choice between a 10-year and a 20-year facility. We designed the 20-year. What does the 10-year cost? And if we're going to say residents chose this, we should be able to say what they turned down. And the lower level shows approximately 19,000 square feet of garage, which is a quarter of the building. What does that cost? And what does a smaller version save us? The administrator has told me we can't fill it today. Utility vehicles hold the extra bays until the department grows into them. I understand building for tomorrow. I'd like that decision priced separately so that we can weigh it. I'm asking because I'd like council to see a priced smaller option before August 13th. Not because the design is bad. Those are some pretty good looking AI images there. But this team has already found 11,000 square feet and $4 million. That's proof that scope responds when we ask it to. And I'd also hope that we publish, at least on the city's website, the full 20-year tax impact while residents can still act on it. And the last thing, the mailer gives residents the deadline, the number of required signatures, 254, and tells them to file it with the clerk. And that's good, and I asked for that. What it doesn't say is what makes a signature count. The state statute says voters. Our mailer says residents. Those are completely different things. And someone could gather 260 signatures in good faith and come up short without knowing why. I'm told that the city can't answer residents' questions because it's legal advice. Respectfully, I believe that telling people what a statute requires isn't legal advice, it's public information. We tell people what a building permit requires. So before August 13th, I would like us to publish who may sign, what each line must contain, and whether there's a form already available. I want to build this campus, but I want it right-sized and built so that the people paying for it can carry it. Thank you.
One more comment. I just wanted to clarify, I think the flyer looks wonderful too, and I appreciate Councilman Lanterman's words as well. Didn't we, I know we applied for a $20.6 million federal grant, but we did not get that grant, correct?
No.
So I actually have a great update. I shared it with the mayor at the playground. So we made it through the appropriations committee. I was notified this afternoon. So it wasn't 20.6 total. 18.6 million was broken down into 3 projects that Representative Kelly Morrison took forward for us. She was allowed to take 11 projects. 3 of them are from Corcoran. That was unprecedented. So totaling 18.6 million for our project. All of that made it through the appropriations committee, and the notice that I got from her office today was pending the approval of a federal budget, which we will see what happens in November or December. That's when we would find out about that. And then also Senator Amy Klobuchar sponsored $2 million on our part for what's called congressionally directed spending, specifically for the Emergency Operations Center, which is the upper right-hand corner EOC and training room. That would cover all of those things. It's some pretty high-tech equipment that's required for our multi-departmental collaboration, and there's some other requirements in terms of CGIS and those capabilities. But so that made it through FUD, which is one of the subcommittees, and is anticipated to go forward. So right now it looks very favorable that we could get as much as 20.6. So to respond to Councilmember Lanterman, we have to set a not to exceed bond amount. That does not mean that will be the bond amount that we would be chasing. We have to set the not to exceed bond amount. And then between that time that we set the amount and the time that you actually have to go to market, we should be hearing from the feds to know how much external funding we should get so that we could reduce our demand by that amount. And then also a reminder that for the project, roughly 10.4 million of it, the reason the utilities are operating is because we do not have a place, as was in the video, for our utilities to operate right now. And so that would allow the utilities to operate for the first 10 years of the building out of our facility. That's the separate building with the 14 square foot garages as well as some of the other spaces. And so we're creating some space so the utilities can operate out of that. And then as the utilities continue to grow, as he anticipated that, when the time comes for the southeast water treatment facility, we would create some additional space in that facility as created by the utility funds. And then that would coincide with what we anticipate to be the growth of staff. So that's why, like right now, we don't have that many police cars. So we could have the utility vehicles take up those spaces right now for what they need to operate. And then as they move out, our police department is expanding and would fill it up. So it's really a stewardship today, recognizing our requirements tomorrow as it transitions.
There's some other things that are, as far as the garage space, that get a little more complex. I mean, as far as our stuff that's being stored outside with our command trailers and things that are getting, taking and being out there, that we at least need to plan. There's some plan to be able to store it, and eventually it might help to be outgrown in that space as well. But there was, I think, a lot of, when you talk about the shaving 11,000 square feet, there was a lot of work done to get down to what can we minimally work with. And to your point, where what you see with the election storage is what we see in 10 different areas as we go through the plan. Everything is smaller than is ideal, but what can we live with or what can we function with is what we're trying to design it to.
Well, I wouldn't say everything is small.
No, I'd say relative to how we're trying to function for 20 years.
Can I ask you a question? You saw the pretty pictures up here. Are you okay with a police department with that much glass?
We've had a lot of conversations about where that glass is and how that functions. So you'll notice the lower level being stone, not being glass. Right. The second level, we've had conversations with them about how high up, where does the glass start? And also as we get into materials, talking about are there ballistic protections on that glass, in what directions? Yeah. And those are active conversations that we've had with the protections. But
yeah, I mean, I would much rather support safe than pretty.
There's also translucent glass that looks like a regular window, but it isn't. It's more about getting daylight in, which helps, energy savings, et cetera, but it's
Yeah, but
also
that
the
wouldn't
benefit of
stop
daylight.
a bullet.
With ballistic, yes.
Oh,
Yes.
oh, did you say ballistic?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry, I
Ballistic
didn't hear.
translucent.
Yeah, I didn't hear ballistic.
Some of the other things you can do is not, raising the windowsill up enough to where you can't be seen where you're sitting at your desk, but you can still stand up and look out the window. There's a therapeutic effect and an ability, it's a health and wellness thing to be able to not only have natural light, but also to be able to have a view to the outside. So that's something that's evidence-based. We actually just published an article on the importance of both natural light and views to the outside as being beneficial for not only first responders, but civic employees as a whole.
I would be more concerned about being shot.
Yep.
Yep.
No, it's ballistic.
I would add,
It is ballistic, so all of this glass is ballistic?
On the police side.
On the police side?
The Siege's side.
Okay, thank you.
That.
And then the front facing, with the customer facing, position, that would be as well.
one more, go ahead.
Oriented towards the center. That was one of the reasons the police squad area was oriented towards the center, security area as opposed to the police street.
Thanks, Chief.
I was just going to add one more thing about the elections too. As the city grows, we have 3 precincts right now, but when we get bigger, we could potentially have 12 to 13 different precincts. And moving all of that equipment up and down the elevator every time you have an election is a huge, huge burden. So having it on the 2nd floor, I just have some concerns about that.
We'll look at putting it on first.
Or it might actually make sense to put it down in the basement, because then that goes out the garage space. That's where the vehicle would be, rather than going out the front door.
Yeah, I don't know if there's an easy solution. Where I currently am, it's in the basement. It's a room about this size, and we have to push everything up a hill to get it out to the van that picks it up for the polling places. And the Q van is too big to get into the garage door. So you have to push it up and then take it down every single time. So just something for us to consider.
Anything else? A lot of information.
Very early in the design.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, we do have some comment cards, but before we go to them, do you have any other comments or questions?
I don't think so. No, again, it's a work in progress, and so feedback is what we need the most right now, so we really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you're looking for barn inspiration, I've got one. I've invited you once.
All right.
Love to show you. Good job, you guys.
Yep.
It's a lot of work.
Really cool.
I love it.
Yep.
So,
Is
Mayor,
this in the packet too?
no, it just came up. So Mayor and Council, I've had a lot of questions from different folks, and some of you have asked me to take a look at, what about staying here? So, when I got back, I took a look at it just so that we could have that data as a consideration. So if you recall, we had a fire about 3 weeks ago, and so that was not factored in when they did the facilities condition assessment, because they were looking at what present shortfalls were. So that is factored into this, as well as fire alarm replacement, because that's not sufficient. The HVAC was factored in before, electrical upgrades, the roof leaks in certain areas, even though it was relatively recently replaced. Staff will testify to you that it has spots where water comes through. Interior changes, we have some ADA compliance issues with our facility, security access control and IT needs, and then some other things. So right now, and again, we didn't go too deep into it, but I did do some research. Just to get this building compliant for us to actually function would take about 3.2 to 5.8 million. And then it is insufficient. We're short by 52,000 square feet of what we need to function right now. with all of the things that we talked about. So then I looked at how could we get functional on this site. We could turn this into a trailer park. We'd have to give ourselves a whole lot of variances and break our own rules, and we would look like hypocrites to everybody around, but we could do it. And in order to get those facilities on site, modular offices, it would cost roughly another 1.2 to 2.8 million. What this doesn't take into consideration is how we would operate in the 12 to 18 months that it would be required for us to vacate this site. That's going to be probably another 1 to 2 million to move into something. Or I don't know how we provide services, because there's a lot of in-person services that are required, so we would have to have something. We could send maybe a third to two-thirds of our staff home and work remotely, but there's an expectation as a developing city. Every day we're filled meeting with developers, residents as they move in and they're trying to understand what's happening. All of that customer service would have to go someplace, and there's no facility in the city of Corcoran that could accommodate in order to provide that customer service at this time. So you asked me for that data, so I wanted to provide that to you. Bottom line, I don't know how we feasibly make it work, but as a staff, I owe it to you to at least answer the question.
Yeah, this is awesome. I wish though, like, I would have loved to have reviewed this prior to getting to the meeting tonight.
Yep.
And like, this should really be in the hard copy packet book too, just so in case the audience wants to review it as well. So I would really.
So it will go into the packet. Since I got back from Alaska from the Memorial, this is what I've been working on in order to try and answer your questions.
And
so I'm sorry it didn't make it into the packet, but I got it done this afternoon.
And I totally understand that, Jay. I'm just saying maybe it would have been better to bring it to the next meeting, just so we'd have a chance to look at it too, because I feel, and I'm feeling frustrated right now, so I apologize, but I feel like we get stuff last minute, and I just don't have a chance to look at it. And this is just one more example. That's all I want to state. It'd be nice if it was included in the packet, and that's all I'll say.
So it will be loaded up into the packet, but I literally printed it right before I came here because I've been working on it since I got back from Alaska.
Jay, yeah, this is helpful, thank you. Can we get something like this as it would look for the 10-year instead of the 20-year? I'm curious.
So
I don't recall seeing that.
So on the survey, it did put the price on it, but I can do some analysis on what that would be. The significant thing, the feedback that we got from the survey was the dollar value didn't change that significantly. I was looking for it as I was sitting here to respond to your question. So I can get that and we can bring it back, and it is posted from that meeting. I just haven't been able to get it this minute. It was on the survey what the cost was for the 10-year versus the 20-year building.
Yeah, and I guess I'm curious what the difference would be.
The square footage, from what I recall, wasn't that significant. It was about 10 or 11,000 square feet over the course going from the 10-year to the 20-year for expansion.
But overall cost, yep.
Yes, and we've already reduced the building by 11,000 square feet.
Why would the cost be
Because of
up
increase rate.
if it's smaller?
Not up the upfront cost, but
The overall cost.
overall cost, if you get to that 20-year building,
Right.
or the full building, because of increases in
4 to
construction
6%
costs,
every year,
whole
the
lot,
cost of the building
5
goes
to
up.
10 years,
Yep.
that overall would be about $4 or $5 million more total.
Correct.
So there are costs to, like, when you talk about expanding the building, when you have to remove a wall, there is costs to that as well. So, just keep in mind, sometimes it's more cost effective in the long run to build the bigger envelope and throw it in as you go.
To your guys' point too, but you were talking about, I forgot who talked about it. Public Works, Public Utilities is going to rent the space until we end up another water treatment because of population growth and things, putting public utilities into the next water treatment, so to speak. So there would be a good time there. We didn't.
Just to clarify, you don't mean rent, you're going to use.
I'm saying we're going to charge public utilities rent in City Hall. So you guys know what I mean. It is again, you guys know what I mean. It is something that you guys have wisely thought about, sharing the business, sharing the building, sharing the space utilities are needed, and we can add more offices and stuff off of that building. We built the bare minimum up on the northeast side with the one that's there.
But I would
We
also
get-
say, Councilmember sorry.
That's right.
Sorry. That we did
Maybe
plan
not
for the
tomorrow, but-
future, so that would be another example of those who are critical of planning. We built it with 3 cells. Some could say that we should have done it
Right.
cheaper, but we know that we're going to need it, and so we built it with the space, and it's sitting vacant for that 3rd cell right now, because when it comes time, it would have cost us 5 times as much down the road to build that other cell.
Right.
And so there's a stewardship question here. So we can build it smaller, but you're gonna pay 4 to 6% over year increase. And so that was the difference between the 10 and the 20 year, towards Mayor McKee's point, that we could find a way to build a 10-year building, but you're gonna pay so much more. And then don't forget, so we have this building, we have 32 miles of gravel roads that right now would estimate about $40 million to build. We've got that as a requirement. We need a fire station. That's been said since 2018. In 2026 dollars, that's $17 million for a fire station. And when Public Works was built in 2014, instead of building it to the size that it needed, they decided to short size it, so we started out short, and we're already 40,000 square feet short on that. So that's a $20 to $30 million build when it comes time for that. All of these taxpayers are concerned about it. So if we kick the can on this, how are we going to be able to meet all of these pressing needs? A lot of folks routinely send me emails concerned about when are you going to do the gravel roads? I don't print money. And so we have to figure that pressing. But in order to plan those roads, in order to construct those roads, we need places. We need places where staff can work to plan to build the roads. And if the decision was that you do that from home, we lose a lot of efficiency and effectiveness. I don't know how many people work from home, but there is some synergy that happens when people are working together. There's a loss of efficiency, and that's how come multi-million-dollar organizations have decided post-COVID to send all of their staffs back.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
And I don't mean anything bad by it or anything, but what would have happened if that fire event would have done this? What would we have done?
I
Where
have
would
no
we
idea,
have
sir.
gone?
We
I
have
have-
no backup plan.
I have dreamt that since it happened, and I can't find a building. My barn is 7,800 square feet. Obviously not big enough, but we have no building.
We'd probably be begging one of our neighbors.
We'd have to beg our neighbors to, yeah. And then we've got that whole next thing of, what do you mean I gotta go to Rogers, Maple Grove, someplace to do my city stuff? What's going on?
And there's an irony that folks are saying that we have all the room that we need.
Yeah.
But you just saw in the meeting that we had earlier today, that is not the case. That is not serving the community well.
Couple quick questions. The 18.6 million that we potentially could be getting,
In CPF, yep.
is that specifically for something? Like, I know sometimes grants are specifically for X, Y, Z.
Yes, it was earmarked for 3 projects, and I could send you those. We covered those breakdowns in a council meeting a while ago. So roughly 10 million of that mirrored what we requested in state bonding. So that would really go towards training facilities for the police department. And I forget what it was, maybe it was the 1.6 million, would actually go towards supporting some of the things for the community. So amenities outside, like community gardens, we recognize that our neighbors, we heard it from St. Therese as we were doing it, they have concerns about what's happening to the space across from them, and so trying to make it almost like a park environment. And so that was a component of it. Another component of it was we have a lot of home businesses, and they don't have all of the things that they need to operate their home businesses. And so some communities have gone to incubator spaces in order to help support those organizations or those businesses, so they can come in, have a space to meet with a client, have a meeting room to meet with potential customers. It covers the cost of some of those spaces. And then
All of that money could end up helping us build a new city hall.
It could. Realistically, last year, Minnesota received $11 million total in community project funds.
Right.
And so while our 18.6 has made it through the Appropriations Committee, and that's exciting, realistically speaking, we're unlikely to see that much. And then when you throw on top of that, so in my past life, I was part of helping build the budget for the Army. And so as we built the appropriations budget, the government shut down twice. 2013 was a really significant one. And then they go to what's called continuing resolution authority. So it goes back to just keep the budget that you had last year. If you were paying attention, last year's budget didn't come through, and they're under CRA until well into past the beginning of the year. And so I don't know that realistically we're going to see money come through in a timeline that would work for us. How I would recommend that we wait is that we bond for that portion, and then if we are to get CPF dollars, that would help reduce the pressure on the utilities. So instead of having to borrow more money from the utilities to rent, if you would, because that also impacts our residents.
Yep.
And so that would be a way to ensure that pressure doesn't hit their future utility bills.
Last question for me. So like the lobby looked really like a nice sized lobby, pretty large, but I'm just wondering how many residents visit City Hall on a day? Like in any day, would you say?
So the other thing I'd say is it has a lot to do with where your City Hall is. So we're literally building it in what's supposed to be our city center. It's supposed to be walkable. So rather than say, what do we do now? I'd look at a city where it's actually functioning the way that you envisioned when you started to design what the future city would look like. So what do you want it to look like? Not what's happening, but what do you want to happen? And so when you look at more walkable downtowns, which is the way that area is designed, if we're closer to St. Therese and we have spaces that they could use, they have a lot of great amenities there, no doubt. But right now, I don't know, what would you say on average? We had to keep track of that because we were trying to figure out how to staff our front desk. So I think it was probably about 24.
A day?
Well, it really depends on the day. Like there's definitely days where we've had 50+ people come in, especially around election time, and it gets insane. And you have a lot of people all at once right there. And then it depends. Sometimes it's not necessarily a resident, but we have developers coming in. We have people dropping off packages coming in, and they need to be serviced just like a resident. So it depends, and as far as how long they're staying, that greatly depends. I don't have a great answer for you because every day we're adjusting to the demand that is in front of us. So some days it might be quiet.
Yeah.
Other days it can be very busy.
For community development, you're talking. I'm just talking the front desk.
Yeah.
So we have 3 different folks that rotate through regularly to support the front desk. And the reason it splits through that is because we have 3 different types of service requirements for the front desk. And so with community development, that's coming forward primarily with plan requests and such.
Utility billing requests.
So lots of utility billing support, and then the other part, questions for the city clerk. So that trifecta supports the front desk collaboratively. And then it depends on the day. So Wednesdays are crazy for community development. Absolutely nuts. On those days, we've had as many as 50, 60 people come through. Election season is also crazy, as you recall. On any given day, it depends on the day.
We usually have the highest voter turnout too.
We had the highest voter turnout in Hennepin County.
Right.
The day before the last general election, the last day of voting early, we had over 500 people for the meeting.
Jay, if I could offer a counterpoint on something you said earlier. A few minutes ago, you said that the number of people here tonight and out in the foyer was evidence of a facility that just isn't big enough for our needs. And I guess I would say that instead it's evidence of people who, I've never seen this many people at a council meeting. Instead, I think that it's evidence of people concerned about their taxes going up and how they're gonna continue to pay these rising costs.
So we have had that many or more. So when we weren't set up for elections in the past, actually the whole atrium was filled for certain development discussions.
Yeah, I meant just at a council meeting.
Yeah. No, it was at a council meeting. Yeah, we've had the atrium packed and this packed with all of the seats that we've had out.
A few times before you get on board, it's been crazy.
It depends on how contentious the item is, but I'd also say when there's a contentious development item, that also means we're seeing a lot of foot traffic leading up to it as well.
That means what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
When there's like contentious development, we're also seeing a lot of foot traffic.
Oh, foot
Yeah, so in terms of like what we're seeing at the council meeting, we're also seeing that throughout the week on its, so that's why it's like, it's hard to say. It's like I could give you an average, it might seem small, but we're also trying to make sure we have capacity for when we are overwhelmed, so that we can have fruitful conversations, because right now in the atrium, when we're having especially impromptu meetings when people are coming in, because the meeting rooms are all booked, which happens more often than not, it's not exactly, when there's a lot of people talking, it can be very difficult to actually have a conversation that's fruitful, and right, so.
Was there a conference room off of the lobby? I don't remember seeing on the,
Yes.
there is,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the conference room off of the lobby.
We could host meetings at Heritage Park.
That's
a nice
capacity
facility.
That's capacity about 100, but I don't know if that would necessarily be for, it's not filled for.
It was actually a joke.
Yeah, we don't have we'd have to invest in some IT in order to meet all the requirements that we have for recording and such.
It was a pun.
There will definitely be opportunities for, I think, open houses at Heritage Park, but even that is, we did what we could with the resources we had, and so it's only about 125, I think, per standing room. Per standing, yeah, and about 70 plus if you guys tables.
And we're gonna learn about that in a little bit.
Yeah, that's the next item.
All right.
Hold on. Okay. Have Nicole Sanders come on up first.
Thank you all for staying.
You didn't thank us.
Thank you for
There
your
you go.
service. My name is Nicole Sanders, and I live at 8026 Walnut Lane, Corcoran. One thing before my time starts, since everyone else has had so much time to talk, I feel like I should have a couple extra minutes to share a point. You know, this logic of like building a large building now because it makes financial sense, even though we don't have the tax dollars for it, it just makes sense because it's cheaper. That logic would be like a young couple starting out being like, I better buy that $1 million home today. I can't afford it, but I better buy it today because when I can afford it in 20 years, it's gonna cost a lot more. You don't buy things that you don't have money for, is my belief. And the fact that we do not have a DMV, residents do not come to this, I don't know, I can't imagine a time when I'm ever gonna walk, ever, whether it's here or a different building, to a city space. It's just not something I would do. If there was a DMV, for sure I would. If there was a library, 100%. No. And I actually thought that the reason that this proposal wouldn't be allowed to be on a ballot is because there isn't any community space, like any public space for the community to use. Isn't that correct?
No.
Oh, so there is community space.
That's what was demonstrated.
Okay, I thought I misunderstood that then, because I thought well, no, it can't be on a ballot because the only way it would have to be is if there was community space in the building, then it would have to go on a ballot.
I think you're mixing
stuff up.
Yeah, please help me. Can you explain?
There's a type of project that can or cannot go, like school projects and other facilities. Maybe Grove had one that can go on a ballot.
Okay.
Question. There's other ones like this that may have a community room aspect to it, but because of the nature of the overall project, isn't allowed to just go on to the ballot without a reverse referendum.
Okay, so if there was like a walking track for residents to use and fitness space for residents to use, that
I'll
could
actually
go?
speak more directly to it. So it all has to do with the governing body. So in this case, the council has statutory responsibility and authority in order to go forward a project. A school district does not. That's the differentiation.
Gotcha.
It has less to do with the project, it has more to do with the governing body.
Okay, I appreciate that. So what I've wrote, and I'm going to read, I might have something incorrect, so please forgive me. Dear Mayor, Council, and City, I'm here to ask the Council and Mayor to please deny the Civic Campus as proposed. While I understand the need for additional space for the city employees and police department, I feel strongly that the current proposal would be a disservice to residents and that a more financially responsible option exists. My primary concern with the proposal as it stands is the lack of meaningful commercial development in our community to broaden and strengthen our tax base. To support the quality growth that the city desires, it's imperative that commercial development be attracted to our city and that our reputation becomes one of professionalism and working togetherness. I challenge each of you to rethink the statement that we draw the line at paying the water and sewer improvements for developers and instead focus on long-term goals. A natural part of negotiation includes compromise where both parties make concessions for the greater good. We have demands such as limiting light pollution, noise pollution, honoring our rural culture. Therefore, we should be prepared to do what is needed to draw quality commercial business that we hope to attract. The value adds to our community and broadening this and strengthening our tax bases would be worth it. I also challenge you to let go of a past notion and instead think about what makes a strong, desirable community. As our community grows, residents need convenient access to local businesses, services, restaurants, and retail opportunities. Commercial development not only provides economic benefits and employment opportunities, but also creates destinations that encourage residents to shop, gather, and engage within the community rather than traveling elsewhere. Without this, improvements to our existing civic campus or a significantly smaller new civic campus to meet the current and short-term needs of the city feels more appropriate. If, contrary to residents' input, council and the mayor approve the proposed civic campus, residents could petition for a referendum election. I'm furious with how this has been handled and want to work with countless residents who want to begin a petition for a referendum election if it is passed. Unlike most civic campuses, this proposal has no community space. Didn't realize there was a room there. It's a lot, it's not, yeah, so I'll skip that part because apparently there's a room now for us, so that's good. Last Wednesday, I emailed the city to ask that they please provide me with proper wording and format, for a petition, and was repeatedly told that they could not provide legal advice, period. Everything I read online said that cities can have particular wording, formatting, etc., and this lack of helpfulness was extremely frustrating. I don't have the means to hire an attorney, and it felt unimaginable that there wasn't assistance of this from the city, since they would be able to deny a presented petition if they deemed information missing once it was provided. The lack of helpfulness from the city is highly concerning, as it's been my understanding that its government ultimately works for the citizens and residents of the municipality, but maybe that's incorrect. I elevated this to council and understand that yesterday council asked the city manager to have the city attorney give me a clear, authoritative answer on the specifics that actually apply to a reverse referendum petition, the government statute, the number of signatures required, the filing deadline, and where to file. I would like confirmation that the document I crafted was shared with the city attorney and that they will provide me this information no later than Monday, July 27th, a week and a half after my initial request. When I presented last, I mentioned that the city website spotlighted the proposed civic campus doesn't acknowledge that this project is not yet approved. By sitting in here today, I don't think anyone would think this project was not yet approved. We got to watch a full, I don't even know if that was an hour of, the folks did a wonderful job of a very impressive, very high-end building. I'm blown away, and I think it would be gorgeous in a really, really big growing city. That would be amazing. It feels absolutely absurd to me, given where we're at. This is Corcoran. This is rural. A lot of my neighbors have wells and septics. People live on gravel roads that we talked about. We're within the top 10 we are within the top 10 safest cities in the entire state. Anyway, when I presented last, I mentioned that my hope was that the city would see their errors and correct them, but surprisingly, that wasn't the case. Council, I'm asking you to please direct the city to update the website to make it clear that this is not approved. As a city working for the people, it feels appropriate to also include information about when it would be voted on by the council, as well as timing and information on the resident petition that could overturn such approval. One outstanding question I would like clarification on is how the proposed $10 million charged to residents through the utility bill would impact our numerous residents that have a well and septic. They don't receive a utility bill now, so does this mean that they would receive one going forward, or does this mean that they are exempt from that? In closing, I also want to ask the council and the mayor to please deny the proposed longevity pay presented by the city. If city employees would like to work for the police department, putting their life on the line every shift, they're welcome to have that additional benefit. City employees receive fair pay, exceptional health care, and pension plans that don't exist in the private sector. If they don't appreciate the free jacket they receive on day one or the generous gift options they get to choose from every 5 years, I propose that be removed. Thank you for your time and consideration. I appreciate your service to our city and respect that your concerns be carefully considered. Thank you.
For reference, open forum is the appropriate time to talk about things that are not on the agenda.
Okay, so I should have done the last paragraph on open forum. Okay, I'm sorry. The last time when there was something about that, I said it during this, and no one said anything, so I thought it was okay as long as it was just a blip.
There is overtime.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, though.
Amy.
Good evening. I only have about a 3.5 minute script here.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, I will, yes. So it should go quickly. My name is Amy Egan, and I live at 8029 Xyloid Lane in the Rush Creek Reserve Villas, and I have been a resident here in Corcoran for the past 2 years. Today, I'm asking you to reconsider the timing and prioritization of our proposed $50 million civic campus. The city's 2040 comprehensive plan lays out a vision of attracting commercial development, expanding our retail and restaurant base, creating amenities for residents, and ultimately building a stronger commercial tax base. Every new business in Corcoran will create jobs, generate ongoing revenue that helps pay for parks, public safety, and even a new city office campus. Most importantly, they reduce the financial burden that is currently placed on homeowners. The city's guiding principles include fiscal responsibility. The charter states that prudent stewardship of public funds is essential to positioning this city for future success. I would advocate that fiscal responsibility also includes asking whether this is the right investment at the right time based on the stage of growth that the city is currently in. As someone who spent more than 25 years leading global organizations, I can tell you that successful organizations don't immediately build new headquarters when they face space constraints. They look for creative solutions until long-term revenue supports a permanent investment. I also want to address a limited community survey. With only 727 responses, so roughly 400 people said yes to the question about building a city hall and police department facility, and roughly 320 said no or not sure to that. Half of the respondents were age 65 or older, while younger families, those who will likely carry these costs for decades, were underrepresented. The headline here is that 80% of the city residents did not participate in this survey. As one of the largest government investments in Corcoran's history, this limited survey response should not be viewed as a broad community consensus for a $50 million investment in city office space. Large investments like this deserve broad public engagement. Therefore, this should definitely be on the ballot in November. My neighborhood does plan, I'm in the same neighborhood as Nicole, does plan to do a petition in hopes of advocating for inclusion on the ballot in the fall. Once we've built that stronger commercial foundation, we will be in a much better position to invest in civic facilities without placing unnecessary pressure on homeowners. So tonight, I respectfully ask you to explore low-cost interim options to resolve the workspace issue and prioritize commercial growth as outlined in the city's comprehensive plan. Let's build the tax base first. Let's attract the businesses residents have been asking for. Let's create the destinations that make people want to spend time and money in Corcoran. Once we've strengthened the economic foundation of our city and we have the revenue base to support it, the city campus can be revisited. In closing, government buildings don't create prosperity. Prosperity creates government buildings. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And with that, we'll move on to 10A, which is Heritage Park.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
May I interject something?
Sure.
I just feel the need to correct a couple things for the
Please
council's
do.
benefit. Thank you. It's specifically in relation to Ms. Sanders' comments. I can tell you that some of the responses that she's referencing, you can attribute to me.
Excuse me, John?
Yes.
Folks, I asked at the beginning, please listen. Thank you.
Thank you. So the clerk reached out to me, having received some inquiries about the form of petition. The initial inquiry which I saw, and I did not see all of the communications, but what I did see was a question about whether a specific oath was required. As I understand it, that question was answered. There was a mention about how far, the length of time of response. I happen to know that the initial inquiry came in as the clerk, the person that was being reached out to, was going on a scheduled vacation. I think that's somewhat understandable to me. When she came back, I believe the first day she was back, she was answering this question and enlisted my help again as the questions continued to follow and became more rapid and more detailed. Resources were provided, including the information that will be in the form of the petition. Will supply all of the information that you would need to know dates, important numbers, things of that nature. As far as the formal petition, she was provided with the Minnesota admin rule, which guides all of the requirements for that. A draft was then supplied, and it was then being basically asked for the clerk to revise that. That is where I stepped in. I thought that was legal advice, and I did inform Councilman Romanchman of this. Because I agree that providing objective facts is appropriate and providing resources. The charter was provided, I know. But I believe that interpreting the statute for the residents is beyond the city's role in this. And my role as city attorney would be to step in and say, okay, we provide the resources, but we don't interpret the law, we don't draft it for the residents. So I have no position on whether or not project goes forward or whether there's a referendum to challenge it. But I do have a position on whether or not this would be legal advice to revise or draft a petition for the residents. I do believe that that's inappropriate. So I just want to go on record. I don't think that staff should take the brunt of that. You can attribute that to me.
Okay, and would I work full-time. I have a very, very busy life, and I'm sure everyone does. However, I do not understand the legal jargon stuff, the government statutes and all of this. I don't, and I don't have time to hire someone to try to read it for me. Am I wrong in my interpretation that if I do my best effort at what I think is right and provide it, you guys could say, well, nope, because this isn't right, or you're missing that? That's all I'm saying. All I want is to know does this template have the required information, or is there anything missing? Because that's all I want to know. That's all I want.
But that's asking for us to draft it or revise it.
But, so you're not going to, okay.
So the rule lays out everything that you needed in the form. What I would encourage you to do is to very carefully read that rule that you were provided, right? Apply that to your form. Make sure it hits all of those requirements, okay? That's what the Secretary of State will require.
Right,
okay?
and that's what I think I'm doing, but.
Okay, well, what I would suggest is just take a really close look at it, maybe have a few other people take a really close look at it that are like-minded and want to help you with that. You can seek advice from an attorney should you choose. I can't give you advice.
Okay.
Legal advice, nor
Okay.
can the city clerk on this matter.
Okay,
That's
so,
my opinion, I just wanted the council to know.
okay, so when,
So when the clerk is saying, I can't give you legal advice,
it's you.
because I
Thank you,
am telling
Deb, I
that
thought
is-
that you were
that
just
is
not
legal
being
advice.
nice. Okay, and I appreciate hearing that. So the answer is, when I submit it, you're gonna say, that's your interpretation of what this is, it's acceptable.
It doesn't go to us, does it?
And I don't know
we
how this
receive that?
works. That's why I'm asking the questions. I'm a very much a rule follower. I just want to do it right. And I don't know what I'm doing. And it does feel a little bit like David and Goliath. This is something that's being steamrolled through, and the residents are like, time out, stop the boat. And I'm like, I don't know how to make sure that this thing is read right. But I do know from what I'm reading online is it can be declined if something isn't right on what the city wants. And that's where.
City in there.
Okay, so who do I have to talk to? Is it the Secretary of State?
That would probably.
Okay, perfect. That's what I'll do then. Okay.
The Secretary of State may have a form that they can provide, I don't know if
I
they do
didn't
or
see
not.
one, but,
You can call and ask, they may have one, or they may have one that's close that you can work from.
Okay,
right? But
okay.
either way, I think what you need to do is compare it to the rule, make sure you have all of the information in there, right? In the petition draft that you have. I'm just telling you the city can't draft it for you.
Okay.
They can't revise it for you.
Yeah, okay, well, no, and it
Because
helps me.
then we're providing you that legal advice, and anything that's wrong with it is potentially attributable to the city. You see what
Sure,
I'm saying?
yep, and I appreciate the clarity, because I thought that you guys were the ones reviewing it and
No,
saying, is this
I
accurate?
took issue with when you were calling staff unhelpful, because I looked at the
It-
communications, and
it-
they were reporting.
They were
very
telling
correct.
me-
Is there any way we can move on from this?
We can. Counsel,
Dean,
I
thank you
don't
so
mean to
much
say
for
that.
your
I just
time.
wanted to clarify
Thank you,
that.
you're so patient.
We beat this up.
Thank you.
It's been very clear. And just FYI, folks, we are all citizens up here, so this is just getting way beyond.
You guys are citizens.
Yes, we are.
You guys pay tax.
I'm a resident.
How many over here are citizens?
That doesn't matter.
I was just curious.
We're the ones that make the decision, and
I
that's
kind of
what we
resent
were,
what you just did there, ma'am.
that's what we were elected for, by everybody. So,
Yeah, I spend more time serving you than you've lived here.
Okay, I think you need to do.
Tone it down.
Yep, please.
Anything needed, let's just move on
next,
to 10A, which is Heritage Park Building Survey and the Reservation Agreement.
Mayor and council, good evening. Hi. This should be a little.
great job on the playground and stuff so far.
Yeah, I'd like to
I
start
can't
by
wait
saying
to see
thank
this.
you all for coming out. I could pull up the picture of you all in corn cob hats, but I won't. You're welcome. This should be hopefully pretty painless. My main goal tonight is to get feedback. Nothing that you say is, or nothing you see is necessarily set in stone. That is why we're coming here tonight, so that we can get it set in stone. So tonight, survey and reservation agreement is the main topic of discussion. You did receive the raw data results from the survey via email. That was before I also went on a vacation. Sorry. 107 residents or respondents provided feedback through the survey. Not all were residents, but majority were. 70% responded that they were somewhat or very likely to rent the building. And most anticipated annual or every few years for rentals. Main things were family gatherings, birthday parties, and showers that were the anticipated uses. 84% preferred minimal staff involvement. So emergency, like on-call kind of phone, or no staff there at all. Which actually works really well considering we have a very lean staff.
Mr. Mayor. Jessica, I know it's not up here, but gun training, gun safety, would that be a use?
As long as they're not
Here.
shooting the guns inside the building, or at the park, I think that'd be fine.
Thank you.
And if Chief Gottschalk wants it there. Rental scheduling, right now shown in the packet is a 1 rental per day. Again, we're a very lean staff, so we're trying to accommodate both what the community is looking for while also trying to juggle where hours fall. Weekends would be as full day rental blocks. Weekdays would have a daytime hourly rental option and then an evening block. The The reason for this, staff working during the day, it allows more opportunity for us to kind of flip a room for an evening versus you're not gonna see a lot of your community development staff here on the weekend unless it's an event. Expectations of renters were also included in here. I might just fast forward past this. It was included just for the time of the day. I just feel like we could probably. On-call support, we're working through what that would look like, but we envision an on-call emergency phone number that we pass around. We're trying to figure out who the staff are that we pass this around to. Reservation exceptions. So I'm kind of laying it out, Corcoran resident, non-Corcoran resident. If that is not the goal, please let me know here tonight. Generally for reservations and registrations within Parks and Rec, we do have a Corcoran resident rate and a non-Corcoran resident rate. 10% discount is what Corcoran residents currently receive at the park. We're also looking at reservation windows, just because a park building is going to have a lot of people looking at dates. So my recommendation would be Corcoran residents a year in advance, non-Corcoran residents 8 months in advance for reservation. Damage deposit, we've got it in here at $350. That is also the current damage deposit amount to reserve any of the park amenities as it stands currently. Whether or not you guys feel it should go up or down, we did include some cost estimates for cleaning should people not clean, just to kind of give a ballpark idea of here's what it would cost if something goes wrong. And that's not including necessarily damages, that's just assuming they don't clean. So for discussion, these were the questions that were included in your packet. Does council support providing residents earlier reservation access, 12 months versus 8 months? I don't know how you guys want to go through these. I'm trying to be quick because of time here tonight. If you want to go one by one, no. How about, can I read them and if you have a thought, you like give me a heads up?
I had yeses to all of your questions in the packet.
I did
If
too.
that helps.
Stunning. Any other? I know someone has feedback, so I'm happy to just fast forward through this if you guys have all read the packet. Okay. Love that.
Except I didn't say, should the city prioritize affordability and community access, recognizing that full cost recovery may not occur? I would say no in the beginning and let's see how busy we are. Because if we have a lot of demand at a higher price, I think that would be a good thing for the city overall. And then if it ends up there's a lot of underutilized time, we could think about a second tier program.
I just want to make sure I'm hearing it right. Start higher, work lower.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there kind of a consensus? Start higher, work lower?
Yeah.
Okay. Other thoughts that anyone had from the questions in the packet? I'm just trying to be brief here. We all want to go home, I think.
It'd be nice to know the damage deposit would cover cleaning and other things. Is that $350 a number that's relatively real to clean that room after somebody that doesn't clean up after themselves, or?
Staff did look into what that cost would be, and there is a range in the packet. I think it was.
Okay, yep, no, I saw it, okay. And then at one point we talked about, is there a janitorial service and stuff that could manage this instead of staff managing the rental and those kind of things? Did we say something like that, or did I dream that?
As far as general cleaning goes, like for
Access, checking on the building, those kind of things.
So an actual rental management company.
Something
And
like
that would be
that.
like a VRBO contract?
Did I dream it, or did we talk about it?
I didn't remember that framework. I was just looking from janitorial services.
Yeah, I think it was more of a janitorial rather than.
And we have looked at janitorial services.
Then I dreamt it, sorry.
Yeah.
I think it really depends on what it blossoms into. If we're really turning it over, then that drives the need and helps the cost. If it's
Yep.
once a day, it's hard to get someone to come out for once a day cost effectively. So I think either custodial, payback, how we manage it, it's gonna be real time. So that needs to be kind of understood by everyone that it's, we can't go too far, but we're gonna need to be flexible.
Yep.
And we understand, we want it to be used, but it needs to be ready for everyone too. We don't know how it would react really.
So my experience with rental facilities is it goes really smooth until you have a bad actor.
Right.
And when you have a bad actor, it throws off the whole rhythm of it, because if it requires a deep clean or even damage repair, you have another renter that's coming in, and you don't always have all the resources you need in order to respond to that. So if we had all good actors, it would be super smooth and we could keep our costs down. But the reality is, statistically, you know, that there's that 10% that mess it up for everybody.
Can we have a list of non-approved renters if we have a bad experience? Can you not rent to that?
Absolutely.
I do think that was one of the things included within the packet with the agreement, is that if you do something bad, you might not have the chance to rent again in the future. If nothing else, for a probationary period, I would hope, but.
Or you triple the damage deposit, or.
And to be fair, we have not had James review it yet. I'm trying to bring it through you guys first, and then we can have him look at the more later draft.
He looks
Heads
pleased.
up. Alright.
One other just group to maybe keep in mind, I know just being part of it, probably every couple of years, either GOP or DFL, like for caucuses and stuff like that, they've had issues because they haven't had a building in the city that's able to handle it. It can't be a voting precinct.
Are you talking like League of Minnesota, League of Women Voters,
No.
like that thing?
No, like, so like when the parties caucus or have like their
caucus.
PPOU conventions, or meetings, they rent, like sometimes they rent Hope, but like they can't do that for the caucus because it's a polling place.
Right, and so that is going to be an interesting policy issue for us. I encountered that because our public buildings, when I was in Shakopee, were polling places, and we couldn't rent them out, and so we were anticipating this being a polling place. So that could be a problem in terms of we can't have political activities that happen within the
Oh, we're
space.
anticipating the park being?
Potentially.
Okay, cool, then that's good too.
So I'm hearing yes to pretty much every question.
Think so? You bet.
No, I
Good job.
can't. I
Did a great
mean,
job.
I was expecting more from you.
No.
You got me
Good
all
job.
excited at the park like I was gonna hear a lesson.
Alrighty, on to 11, staff reports.
I would actually just draw your attention to all of the orange that's coming up in the next couple weeks that's on your calendar. With Night to Unite, we've got the Civic Campus Engagement. August 8th is Summerfest at the Birchville School. Country Days is the 14th and 15th of August, and then St. Thomas's annual festival is that 16th. And then rounding out August with the last tractor pull of the year. So the next 5 weeks, there's a lot of community activities.
I was just thinking my schedule's not busy enough lately.
Sorry about that. But request your presence there, because it's a great opportunity to hear the feedback on all the things that are going on in the public in terms of all development. Primary election day is August 11th here. Just a reminder of that date. That's an important date for us. And then 7:30 tomorrow morning. This opens up as an early 8.
I'll
tomorrow
be
morning.
here at 7:30.
8 tomorrow morning. This opens up as
First day of in-person.
Yes, first thing.
yeah, in-person early voting starts tomorrow. That's all.
Thank you. On to, I lost my page, but I think it's just council reports. Council reports, anyone?
Based on the initial requests from 4 hours ago, I think it would be helpful if we had a work session to talk through some of the issues that were raised by the Bellwether residents. In particular, are there sufficient rationales to reconsider the road network, get an update from staff on the connection to Hunter's Ridge, and talk about what options might exist for us with the trail corridor, depending on what happens with the business park proposal.
I second that.
I think it's a good idea. My only issue is we don't know what when, and we don't know what we don't know in terms of when.
Trail corridor for Hennepin County is a mile either side of a ghosted line, right?
Can I add on to what Jeremy just spoke?
Sure.
I think that they said that they would like to present something to council. So I think I would like to add on to Councilmember Nichols. You didn't make a motion, did you?
I said a suggestion.
I'd like to make a motion to allow the Bellwether committee to come in and present, because I do have some ideas about the trails that what I'd like to hear.
At
At a work session or however we want to do it.
Okay.
So if work session would be a desire, recommendation would be to add a work session to August 27th. We currently do not have a work session scheduled for that date. And then it won't conflict with some of the other important work session topics that we have coming up.
Works for me.
Works for me too.
Okay. So do you want to make that motion?
She did, I'll second.
Okay, well, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So a direction clarification, since this does involve an active development, it would be appropriate for the developer to be asked to come to represent themselves
Yeah, if they
there.
want to come, they're more than welcome.
I'm concerned about having it without them. I don't know if that runs into any issues with just having this conversation before everyone's sitting in the public. I just want to make sure, do we need the developer there to do the discussion? Or is it okay?
You don't have to.
Okay.
I was thinking it's more of a general,
An invitation.
a general discussion about the Northeast District guidelines that we adopted a couple of years ago, where we had all of those connections to the south. In light of the mismatch in densities across the different zones, I think we could revise that as long as we can get adequate public safety access. And so I'd be open to amending those requirements, which would hopefully only benefit
So just
the developer.
for the council, I'm out of town on vacation, I'm happy to talk through any of the public safety stuff, and I can make sure that somebody from our department is there to represent this as well, but if you're looking for any of the historical conversations between now and then, please reach out to me, happy to sit down and kind of talk through, what the history of how we got to what things are.
Sounds good.
I think another potential recommendation, and Kevin can help me out here, we can ask, so many of these things related to the transportation corridors are outside of our control, but also it would be helpful for those decision makers or those staffers to hear that feedback. So I think we could invite the transportation representatives from Hennepin County to that meeting, making them aware that we're talking about 3 significant county roads with 101, 116, and 30.
That'd be great.
To extend an invitation to Judy Johnson, my council. A lot of it's coming from the policy of not wanting to expand roads, which the definition of expansion is widening lanes, not just adding new roads.
And since we are talking, about the Three Rivers Park District, would it be appropriate for us to send an invitation to Three Rivers to see if they want to send a rep, either their planner? I think it's more of a staffer letter, probably Kelly.
Better than Marge.
Yeah, probably not Marge, because it literally would be staff workers, the planners.
Agreed.
Sure. Okay. So we got
Can I make a motion to adjourn?
you.
The person being said something?
No.
Second.
I did.
Oh, I didn't hear you say aye. Yeah, I wanted to second. Aye.
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 We're adjourned.